forces knew but failed to act. The Afghanistan inquiry's published 100 pages of classified documents. Our correspondent Sadia Chowdhury says the files point to a serious and deadly trend.
He said there was a deliberate policy to kill fighting-aged males regardless of whether they posed a threat. He said women and children were summarily executed, including 2 toddlers shot in their bed next to their parents. I will be clear, he told the inquiry, we're talking about war crimes.
The Ministry of Defence says the government's fully committed to supporting the inquiry. Sir Keir Starmer will use a speech later to defend the budgets and back Rachel Reeves. The Chancellor has been accused of deliberately misleading the public by painting an overly gloomy picture of the economy in order to raise taxes. Police are still hunting for a suspect in a mass shooting in California. 3 children were among 4 killed following the attack at a birthday party. The youngest victim was 8 years old. Sheriff Patrick Withrow has vowed to bring the attacker to justice.
We still need the public's help. We need everyone who has any information on this to reach out to us. This is the time for our community to show that we will not put up with this type of behavior where people will just walk in and kill children.
An amber warning's in force across much of South Wales, and some areas could see almost a month's worth of rain in just 24 hours. The ground's already saturated, raising the risk of fast-flowing floodwater, landslides and power cuts. Football, Liverpool had a much-needed win, beating West Ham 2-0. Alexander Isak scored his first Premier League goal for the champions. And Zootopia 2 has smashed box office records. It's brought in £420 million since Wednesday, the highest international opening for an animated film in history. And that's the latest.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning, my friends. Just after 6 o'clock, and welcome to Talk. It's where the nation comes to talk. It's JK back at the controls after a very interesting week. They're playing golf. Never mind, I'll tell you more later. Just on 6 o'clock. My God, I was sad, actually, I have to say, last week thinking, I wish I hadn't been away, because the budget was scintillating, wasn't it? And of course, everybody's had their say. It seems that I've returned to a country where if you go to work and you pay tax and you live within the confines of the law, you're screwed, because it's basically better to not go to work, to sit on benefits and to procreate till the cows come home. But loads of that coming up. We say a very good morning to you. It's the 1st of December. Rachel Reeves has been in the firing line, it seems, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And still, her pre-budget lies are the #1 news story in town. Yesterday, it's all over the papers today, front of the Times, ministers. Reeves misled us over black hole. So this is a woman who does sort of that emergency sort of press conference where you're trying to eat your Cheerios, as Kemi Badenoch said, who said, there's a black hole and I'm going to have to raise taxes because the finances were all screwed up by the Tories. Transpires she had nearly 5 million in credit, but she thought she'd scare us all so she could, in fact, well, I say benefit people who don't do an awful lot. That's the argument is. But now, this is how in trouble this government is. Now Starmer's own cabinet, right, have been briefing against their own chancellor, saying she misled them. Starmer's been dragged in it because he can't tell the truth if it was written in front of him. And our very own Nigel Farage, of course, the leader of Reform, has now written to Starmer's own ethics advisor to say, I think you'll find that your chancellor is indeed a liar. Hopefully, Nigel on this show later on, Sarah Pochin as well from Reform, giving their response to that. But here it is. This is how bizarre a country we now live in and I've returned to. Starmer today, I'm going to do a speech. I did about 10:30, where he's going to call for a cut to benefits. So, see, I'm trying. If you're listening on the radio, I'm looking slightly confused because just a few days ago, they increased benefits. we pay too much in benefits, but he gave out more, and now he's trying to cut it. Of course, the other big news was the chance to soften rules for teenagers who have mental health problems and ADHD. They don't have to go to school anymore. Their parents can just... Honestly, I got up this morning at 4 o'clock and I'm wondering why the hell I bothered. Jury trials as well. Calamity Lammy is still a figure of fun, isn't he? Loads of people responding to this today. Whilst I was away, he wants to scrap jury trials. And all criminal cases where a suspect could be jailed for 5 years will be decided by a judge on their own. I don't know about you, but I haven't got much confidence in the judiciary. A couple of other things: asylum madness, a Pakistani immigrant fraudster who conned elderly people out of their life savings is fighting deportation. He says he's got a problem and only the British NHS can give him the therapy he needs. But perhaps the funniest story of the weekend, my friends, is the Your Party. Is called Your Party. Jeremy and that nutter, Sarah Sultana, still at war, have decided that... have we got a clip from that? I'm saying this is one of the most extraordinary things. Very quickly, to start my Monday off, Your Party's inaugural party just descended into chaos. They're all having a go at each other. This is one of the delegates. This is the Your Party conference yesterday in Liverpool. Good morning, Britain.
Hi there, conference. My name is Erin from Glasgow. When this party started, it included 2 MPs who were openly transphobic, one of whom was a landlord. This party preaches unity and equality for its working class members.
I'm sorry, I need to stop you there for calling them transphobic from the rostrum. Can you please stick to the motion?
Two members who allegedly expressed transphobic views.
It's not a great start. I think we'll write them off and concentrate on this particularly dreadful government. We say a very good morning. He's looking amazing. What a way to start breakfast on a Monday. Peter Blexley, good morning. Are you allegedly transphobically concerned about anything that's going on in the Your Party?
I dread to think what that bunch of nutters would call me. Many, many, many names, I'm sure. But a pinch and a punch for the first day of the month, Mr. Kyle. Don't try that at work, audience, please.
No, don't.
Because, you know, just that jovial bit of fun, which I've done ever since I was a child, will undoubtedly end you up in an employment tribunal.
It certainly will, certainly in this building. A very good morning to you, Peter. Let's start. I've been away, but let's start with Rachel Reeves, or Rachel Thieves. I mean, an extraordinary budget from afar, and this sort of premise that actually... It turns out that working and living within the confines of the law isn't a good look anymore. It's better to just sit at home. That's what you take from it, right?
Well, yes, but if you need a prescription and you want to travel on the train,
yes,
they will tell you it's very good news for you because prescription charges and rail fares have been frozen. So there you go. We are all supposed to be dancing in the streets now and waving our red flags and bowing in front of Starmer and Reeves. And did you see her yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, my word. Stumbling, bumbling, trying to cover her tracks and looking more and more stupid with every word that tumbled out of her mouth.
Well, let's look at this. Front of the Times today. Ministers. Reeves misled us over hole in finances. Front page of the Times. It's dominating every single newspaper today. We've now got her colleagues in Cabinet, senior Labour politicians, briefing against their own Chancellor, saying she lied to us. And in essence, if you're waking up, she said we're in the mess. It was a good start, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which is why I need to raise taxes. But basically, she wasn't in a mess, and she wanted to raise taxes to make all working people pay for people who don't want to work.
Claiming there is a huge financial black hole.
Yes.
When the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, had clearly told her there was nearly a £5 billion surplus.
Nice.
So clearly something's gone drastically wrong here. And many people are alleging, perhaps quite rightly, that Rachel Reeves has been less than economic with the truth. And she's kind of shelved that surplus, made no mention of it, gone in front of the House of Commons, potentially, and misled them, which is why Mr Farage has written his letter. It's why people are complaining to the Ethics Committee, and they're asking for referrals, and they want this to be further investigated, because I'm sure everybody will know misleading the House of Commons is a very, very serious thing, if it's proven that she has done that.
But did she, if this is true, just genuinely, And I break in because we've got some breaking news. If I was Keir Starmer, OK, I'd literally stay in bed. Breaking news on Talk with the Nation comes to talk, my friends. You'll remember the anti-corruption minister, Tulip Sadiq, spouted about corruption in government and how the Tories had messed up the country. In the last few minutes, Tulip Sadiq has been sentenced to 2 years in prison in Bangladesh over corruption charges. So they are. Tulip Sadiq, I don't know whether they'll extradite her or whether she can get away with that, but Tulip Sadiq, the Labour anti-corruption minister, has just been sentenced to 2 years in prison in Bangladesh over corruption. Your response to that, PB?
She does have a very checkered past. There have been many questions asked about her over property ownership and the such like, and property inheritance or property gifts, who knows. It's a very, very murky affair. I suspect, however, that she will not be getting on a plane to Bangladesh anytime soon.
Should she not resign as an MP if she's been found guilty of corruption in another country? Where does that leave the ethics advisor on that one? It's all going wrong, isn't it? I'm so happy I'm back.
I'm sure she's got a very highly paid lawyer thumbing through the rule book to say, if you are convicted in a foreign jurisdiction of a crime, does that affect your ability to sit as an MP?
Right, back to my main news. What can I say about Rachel Reeves? I mean, look, for a long time on Talk, people will have come on and said there's nothing about this woman that we trust or believe or feel that she has the experience to do a really important job. A big thing was made about she's the first female chancellor. Fantastic. She's inextricably tied into Starmer as he is into her. The big question I thought, listening last week, was did he know that she was allegedly lying over a black hole that apparently, according to the OBR, doesn't exist?
Well, whether he did or whether he didn't, he's going to leap to her defence today, apparently, in a speech.
Why?
And he's going to defend her to the hilt because, as you have just quite rightly pointed out, they are joined at the hip.
Yep.
Politically, in their positions in Downing Street, they are inextricably linked, the pair of them. So if one has to go, there will be huge, huge questions about the other.
I want us to be fair on this station today. We've got a clip of Rachel Reeves. She is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She lives at number 10 Downing Street. She is indeed in charge of the nation's public finances. This is her saying, I would never, ever take risks. Have a watch.
The Office of Budget Responsibility, you're not interviewing them, you're interviewing me, but they decided to do a review.
Them.
Well, they decided to do a review of productivity. That is the Conservative legacy. The Office of Budget Responsibility are really clear that that productivity downgrade does not reflect anything that this government has done. I set the budget within the context of the independent... Now, I could have just said, oh, I'll ignore the Office of Budget Responsibility. That's what Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng did. And look at the impact of that. That crashed the economy. It sent interest rates soaring and put pensions in peril. I've always said I would never take risks with the public finance.
The thing about it is you look at her and you think, are you for real? I mean, let me read this to you. Sean in Gloucester. Just imagine if Rachel Reeves is still in this post this time next year. She'll be back for more. She's an incompetent, lying idiot. She, along with the rest of the Labour Party, are doing untold damage to our once great nation, making it almost pointless, Jez, to work or save or have anything. This mess will take a monumental amount of time and effort to rectify. I think loads of people would agree with Sean, right?
You and I are both football supporters, albeit of different teams, and I'm now going to apologise to anybody in the audience who's not a football fan. But Rachel Reeves reminds me of when our clubs over the years, they go to the lower leagues, okay, to a non-league side.
Yes.
They go to a non-league side, and for very little money, they buy a player because they think they might have some ability. So they then get parachuted into your team, and you quickly find they are way out of their depth. They should not have been promoted to the first team of a side in a much higher league, and of course they gently fade back to from whence they have come in the lower leagues. That's my analogy for Rachel Reeves. Promoted way beyond her capabilities, and she should be perhaps doing some other kind of job. In finance, who knows, but certainly nowhere near, and sorry to correct you, number 11 Downing Street.
Great, made me look an idiot. Front of the Daily Mail today, Nigel Farage has waded in, quite rightly actually. Nigel says Reeves must face sleaze probe over budget lies. Rachel Reeves is facing the prospect of a probe. Nigel Farage has written to the ethics watchdog, basically saying with the greatest respect, as you touched upon, if you've lied to the House of Commons, you've lied to the United Kingdom, that is an ethical problem, and she needs to be brought to bear. The interesting thing for us, right, is, for all of us, I think, is that, as you said, this woman and Starmer are joined at the hip, and if he comes out and defends her, I mean, it'll be a whitewash, won't it? You're allowed to say that? I'm not sure. It'll be a whitewash because the ethics advisor will be doing all he can to protect Starmer. I just thought from afar last week, and I don't know what you think about this, it strikes me that there's no way out of there's no way out of this for her. The papers, the stories, her own cabinet, they're going to keep going and going and going. And I have to say, it's no more than she deserves. I agree with you. I think she's massively incompetent.
Yeah, and I think where she's really on a sticky wicket, you may recall that a couple of weeks before the budget, she rather unusually, in an almost unprecedented move, called a press conference and announced the huge budget deficit, then almost trying to pave the way for tax increases. And let's face it, freezing tax thresholds is a tax increase.
Of course it is.
Which is what she did. And at that point, it is alleged that she knew there was a surplus and not this huge deficit. So either way, it would appear that at some stage she has clearly misled.
I think it's right. Can we say just very quickly, good morning to James. Morning, James. Morning, James. Not working.
Good morning, Jezza. Now, this government are an absolute shambles. How on earth Rachel Reeves and Starmer are still there? It's quite unbelievable, Jezza. Now, I do believe in 5 to 10 years, Jeremy, we're going to have to make a choice whether or not I'm going to stay in this country or not, because this is getting worse and worse and worse. I've never known anything like it. I mean, it's been bad, but this is over the edge now. How much more tax are we going to have to pay? What is the point of me going to work?
And I think loads of people, Pete, like James, sorry for the start there, my fault, I pushed the wrong button. I genuinely think that loads of people right now getting up and going to work across the United Kingdom, like James, are going to be saying, what is the point? Why don't I just sit on my backside and do nothing? If you want to be part, this is where the nation comes to talk. 0344 499 1000. You can ring, but we love the voice notes. Leave your voice note. Christian will cut it up. It doesn't matter if you messed it up. Send a text as well, 87222. Let's go to Newcastle. Jan, Jez, you ask why Starmer will defend Reeves in the Commons today. Well, it's because he has no judgment, no morals, no principles. He believes that he can get away with anything, and I'm telling you now, says Jan in Newcastle, he can't. In Lancashire, Zoe, this is interesting as well, and I think a lot of people this will resonate with. She says, morning, Jez, morning, Pete. Don't Labour realise that when I look around close to home, that most of these single parents, the extra cash they're getting, they have control over it. They're not going to use it to lift their kids out of poverty. They're going to continue, well, she says, taking drugs, drinking more, covering their bodies in tattoos and having nights out. This lifting the cap was just to get the benefit scroungers votes, nothing more. They are a bunch of gaslighting thieves who don't care that they have robbed people like me, working people, taking the money out of my pocket to finance the lazy generation. I think Zoe in Lancaster has a really interesting point, don't you?
We are. Well, our benefits bill, our welfare bill, as they call it, is vast. It's in excess of 100 billion a year, easily. And, of course, something has to be done about that. And there are, undoubtedly, among those who claim benefits, genuine people,
Absolutely.
Genuine hardship, of course, but the reckless and the feckless, and those who will be encouraged just to shell out another child, whether they can afford it or not, comfortable in the knowledge that the government are going to give them yet more money, will be encouraged by the raising.
I thought as I drove in this morning, and I don't actually genuinely ever bring it up very often, but the old show that I used to do used to talk to all sorts of people like that, and I used to say, get off your backside, get a job, stop popping out children. Why should we be giving council houses or apartments, flats, whatever, to people just to procreate? And people are like, oh my God, this is outrageous. It is not outrageous, right? I like you, and I think most people listening to this would be really happy to pay our taxes to help the mentally ill, the disabled, and the people who are trying their backsides off to work. And I know plenty, and are not even getting a response. But if we do not surely as a society face up to the fact that we have created, through this bloated welfare state, a situation where people can choose to do nothing as against the that old ethic of, you know what, I'm going to get up this morning, I know my neck's on the line, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to feed my kids, I'm going to look after my wife, and I might not even get to get a beer this week, but I'll be able to look myself in the mirror and say, do you know what, I did right by what I was taught. Pete, what do you make of it all, me old son?
Welcome back, Jeremy. I don't think people understand what's going on here. We've been told for donkey's years now that the British birth rate has gone through the floor. So the only people that will actually benefit out of the removal of the child cap are those families who have hordes of kids, i.e. the Starmer voter demographic, the ones who are incomers to this country. But what this has got the media doing is having British people at each other's throats. It's not going to be some 20-year-old laying at home in bed because he can't be bothered to get a job getting any of this money. They're not going to get any of it. And British people are hardly going to get any of it. People need to wake up. This is a Labour psyops type of thing going on here, and they've got everybody at each other's throats, haven't they?
It's interesting, Pete. You know, when we were doing the shows during the election, I remember, because I'm old like you, thinking, they're being conned here, the British people. I don't believe that the Labour Party, for most of its existence, has really done anything more than say, I'm going to tax anybody, and not just this banner of wealthy, anybody who's doing anything, anybody that's aspirational, building a business, saving, I'm going to screw them all and I'm going to pay people, I'm afraid, under the banner of working people, but actually you end up giving money to people and simply trying to buy votes. I think we'll end up totally skint if we're not skint now, won't we?
It's not a case of you thinking it. Yeah. It's the absolute reality that we face. And yesterday, because of course I'm here commenting, I was watching the lamentable Reeves, and I then watched another political programme on television which had James Murray MP, who works in the Treasury, right? He's one of Reeves's team, and he absolutely sat there and admitted that it's about raising taxes to spend. He said, tax and spend, and the words just flowed out of his mouth because that is any socialist Labour government. Tax and spend, not reduce taxation to promote business so people will employ more and perhaps can open another outlet if they've got a small chain.
And employ people, and the money created just filters down and everybody benefits.
And people spend it and people pay their taxes, and so the economy grows. People feel a bit better about themselves because they've got a few more quid in their pocket. No. James Murray, MP of the Treasury team, admitting live on television yesterday, tax and spend. That's your Labour Party, that's this government.
That's what you're waking up to on Monday the 1st of December. Can I just say that if you had the old Talk app, you need to check. It's gone. We've got a new one. Download the Talk app right now. You can see us and hear us and take us anywhere you want, even to the Cowsey. 6:22, you're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves, under fire from almost everybody since the OBR said she was lying. Now her own cabinet are briefing against her. Open warfare in the Labour Party. Starmer today making a speech saying, well, I support her, and also I think it's really important that I tell you that I want to cut benefits, which is confusing many of us, because last week the Labour Party sent a very clear message, my friends, which I think most people would agree with. Do you know what, actually? I mean, I don't want to encourage, dishonesty or anything, but why, if you are just about to go into the bathroom and have a shower or get into the car or make your sandwich to go to work, why are you bothering? Just go back to bed and sign on. So Starmer on the rack, Reeves on the rack, Calamity Lammy's on the rack, on the rack as well. He wants jury trials gone, he just wants judges. But the breaking news at 6:15 this morning, and it doesn't get any better, is the former anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has just been sentenced to 2 years in prison in Bangladesh. Do you know what for, Pete?
Drum roll.
Corruption. Good morning, this is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. A very good morning to you. 6:27 on the 1st of December. Yeah, we've done that pinch and the punch. You can't do that. This is Talk, where the nation comes to talk. JK at the controls, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. You wake it up to the news that Rachel Reeves being blamed for lying, allegedly, by almost everybody. Her own cabinet are now turning on her and briefing against her. Starmer doesn't know which way to turn. He doesn't know whether to increase benefits, stick by racial thieves or give up. Joyous news overnight that the anti-corruption Minister Chulit Sadiq was sentenced to 2 years just now in Bangladesh for corruption. And the fun part of the morning, Peter Blexley, is the You Party, or should I say your party, this bunch of ragtag left-wingers who congregated yesterday in Liverpool, having decided that their party would indeed be called Your Party. That nutty woman, Sultana, she refused to go in the conference hall. Jeremy Corbyn's now not allowed to lead them. I thought it would be good to pop in and out all morning, get an idea of really what this could offer you as a political alternative. Let's check in with the Your Party conference again then, peeps.
Hello, my name's Mick Spilly Gibson and I'm a non-binary person. Give it up for the trans people, everybody! Thank you, comrades. And it is an honour and a privilege to be stood speaking on this podium today. The reason I am saying yes to socialism in this political statement is because as a trans comrade, as a disabled comrade, as a mad comrade and a neurodivergent comrade.
Morning, comrade, how are you?
I wonder what she does for a living.
She's a comrade.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you know, where does she earn money?
She's a comrade.
And she took her headphones off to make that speech. For people listening on the radio, she had headphones around her neck. So she'd obviously, I wonder what she listens to. I mean, there's so many questions it asks. But primarily, I'd like to know what she does to earn a wage. That's my big
we're
question.
back there again. What is the point of going to work? Loads of you responding this morning. Thank you for your voice notes. I have to say, it is fantastic to get them. 0344 499 1000. Patrick, good morning.
Hey, Jezza, it's Patrick. Just come back from far away in India. I can't believe what's going on. It's absolutely astounding. The three main things that really got up our noses was Liz Truss, the £22 million backhaul, and 14 years. Every single MP on that front bench mentioned those three things on every single programme going. How the hell can they still justify the lies that they are absolutely giving the people of this country?
That's the point, Pete, isn't it? There comes a point, surely, politically, where, quite rightly, the Tories were a shambles at the end, and they could have offered us all money and nobody would have voted. And, in fact, they'd lost the ear of the British people. But this lot are 15 or 16 months down the line. You can't blame... I have to say, and I don't even know, I feel really like I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. I saw a clip at the weekend of a man who I had very little time for, Rishi Sunak. I think he messed it up. I didn't like what he did to Johnson. But I tell you what, there's a clip of him saying, you vote for Starmer. It was the last leadership debate, I think, and I'm telling you it will cost every single working person in this country an extra £2,000, and they laughed at him. Rishi Sunak was dead right. This lot have absolutely no idea about how to balance a book. You're dead right. It's about increasing tax to working people to pay, I'm afraid, for the factors. And there are many who are not cheats, they deserve it. But there are an increasing number taking it out of the rest of us. And it ain't going to get any better under this government. It can't.
Word from a civil service insider reached me over the weekend.
Oh, really? The blob?
Yes, and this person, who's very well informed, shall we say, operates within the circles of government, said that when Rishi Sunak was at the Treasury, seeing as you raised his name,
yes,
it was actually orderly and well run, whether you liked him or not. He said now, with Reeves in charge, it's chaotic. And it comes as no surprise.
Can you say good morning to Andy from Yorkshire?
Good morning, Andy from Yorkshire.
I met him, one of the caddies this week in Spain, top man, and his player Harry, legend. He says, you're bright and breezy this morning, Jez. Listening to the show, bang on with what you're saying about Labour. Hate the set of idiots, have a wonderful day. He said we should go up to Yorkshire. Is it safe, do you think, to go up to Yorkshire?
I'm going to Rotherham on around about the 10th or the 11th of January.
Oh, here we go. Just in case you're interested, Andy, Peter Blexley's doing a UK tour. Is it stand-up?
Yeah, I'll be standing up,
You should sit down, mate. Anyway, so he could buy tickets, Andy. Can you not give Andy and Harry Richmond, who won the tournament in Spain, a free ticket?
Andy could certainly go to peterblexley.com and pick up a ticket.
Well, he's not getting a freebie. Honestly, Blexley, what sort of person are you? Andy's a Yorkshireman, working man. He's got no money.
I'll meet and greet him afterwards. How's that for a deal?
For which you charge, what, 30 quid?
No, behave yourself.
That's outrageous. So the other thing about the budget last week was it seems to me that she lied about having, a surplus, pretended she had a deficit allegedly, so that she could increase benefits, including the two-child cap benefit, which basically says... under the Tories, and I genuinely think it's a good policy. I think we should take responsibility. And before people ring and go, you've got 6 kids, yeah, and I bloody well pay for all of them. I think the state can only help you so much. And it was stopped at 2, right? Yeah. Because people on benefits were just popping them out willy-nilly to get more money, right? Yes. And that's been dropped again by Reeves. So you can have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the state will pay for it. Yes. What do you make of that, Shaney?
Morning, Jazz. Shane in really not so sunny, miserable Bournemouth. I tell you what, mate, this taxing business is a load of rubbish. I'm just getting ready to go to work now as a mechanic, and although I am on a good wage, by the time I'm taxed and everything else, it's just not worth it. You know, I smash my hands to pieces for nothing, while there's people sat at home doing absolutely sod all, living the life of Riley. You know, we get customers bringing cars in with, they're on benefits and they're driving Range Rovers and stuff. Not that a Range Rover is a good car, because it really isn't, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, cheers, mate. Have a good day. And Peter, you're a legend, mate.
Oh, right, he's a legend. He is part of Alarm Clock Britain. The people who, set their alarm clocks, get out of bed, go to work, do what they've got to do, like all of us. But when that's being... How can you tell people that isn't the way to go?
Shane and the overwhelming majority of your audience are the absolute fabric of Britain. Yeah. They are the people that make the wheels of the economy turn. They work hard, pay their taxes, obey the law, raise children who will contribute to society and not drain it. The absolute essence of hard-working, wonderful, stand-up British people who I love and adore. And now we have this government that wants to reward the reckless, the feckless, the lazy, the bone idle. That, for you, is socialism.
Couldn't agree more. 25 to 7, you're tuning in to Talk. So the nation comes to speak. You're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves allegedly has lied about there being a deficit so she could raise taxes to say to the feckless and the reckless, keep procreating, sit at home, don't go to work, don't be part of Alarm Clock Britain, just do what you've got to do. Mary in Canterbury, morning, Jez. The two-child benefit should stay. What they can do with those that are in genuine poverty is to give out food vouchers, but not to the greedy supermarkets. They get out the local greengrocer, the local butcher. Also, I put ID on the vouchers, so you have to show some ID to be able to spend them. That would be a good idea, because my past life will tell me, and some people might be shocked at this, that if you give out vouchers willy-nilly, they'll just trade them, and that's a fact for booze and for drugs. That way, the government is doing two good things, helping out local businesses and helping out the people that have got children who are not being fed. Good morning to... I've no idea. Great show, Jez. In my opinion, no one claiming benefits should have a higher total income, including rent, council tax, free school meals, prescriptions and dental care, than the net income, i.e. after tax, of the average UK salary. I think that would be generous. What do you think? Keep up the good work. That's just common sense, isn't it? How can you say, by the way, thanks for working, you've earned 23,000 whatever this year, you've done right, you've paid your taxes, but I tell you what, you can have 25 for doing absolutely nothing.
It's shocking. The whole welfare system was set up, and I believe it was Winston Churchill.
Great idea.
Who said that, not that set it up, but he said about the welfare system, called Social Security back in those days, he said it should be a net beneath which nobody should fall, but everybody can rise. And that really encapsulates it for me. So many people fall on hard times during their lives for no reason of their own.
Yeah.
They lose their job, for example. They are incapable of working because perhaps they're injured or they're poorly. Those kind of people need to be supported. The disabled, the genuinely disabled people, I want them actually to have more than they get, so we can give them greater facilities and get more disabled people into work. Because I've met many disabled people who really want to work, and we should facilitate that. This huge welfare bill should be properly directed in the right direction and at the same time drastically trimmed.
Mark in Croydon says we have to replay that. We will do it. He says that last clip was mad. If you are tuning in, there is a political party called the Your Party. It was set up by Zara Sultana Fruitcake Nutjob. Doesn't like that apparently. And Jeremy Corbyn. They've been arguing for months, it seems, about who should lead and what it should be called. Yesterday they had their inaugural conference in Liverpool, and I thought it only fair because, you know, in this job we can't just always talk about Labour or the Tories. Well done, Cammy, last week, or Nigel and Reform, and he's going to hopefully be on later. We also have to give credence to Zach from the Green Party, you know, the breast enlarger. He's won. Don't start me on him. But your party might be your party. Alarm Clock Britain, this could be the party that you chose or believe is right to vote for. Mark in Croydon says, could you please repeat This was yesterday at the Your Party conference. Have a listen, have a watch.
Hello, my name's Mick Spilly Gibson and I'm a non-binary person. Give it up for the trans people, everybody! Thank you, comrades. And it is an honour and a privilege to be stood speaking on this podium today. The reason I am saying yes to socialism in this political statement is because as a trans comrade, as a disabled comrade, as a mad comrade and a neurodivergent comrade.
Your party shambles, says Bill in Cheshire. It's Christmas time. Miss Sultana should crawl back into a packet of mince pies and stay on the shelf like she has been since last year. What a nut job. Honestly, what is that?
Seeing as you replayed that clip, I realise I have committed a fundamental sin this morning for which I shall throw myself on the floor and beg forgiveness, because when that clip was played earlier, I called that person she. You see, I completely disregarded the fact that she called herself, I've done it again, as being non-binary. So I don't know what I should call her. Sorry him, sorry they.
Yeah, I get really confused, and Christian will probably frown at me, but I'm that old that binary only meant numbers at school. I honestly, if people say to me, what do you make, I don't understand it. I don't. You be what you want to be, but really, I think we can strike the Your Party off as a challenge to be the next government. Do you?
Your Party, I mean, as we discussed, what's her name? What's her name? Is it Your Party?
No, it's not Your Party.
It's not your party.
It's not my party. It's your party. It's no bugger's party. It's 20 to 7. You're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves is now under attack from her own cabinet. And also the breaking news that the former anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has this morning been sentenced to 2 years in jail in Bangladesh for corruption. Brilliant. Morning, Clifford. How are you, son?
Morning, Jez. Clifford from Devon. I saw a great clip on Facebook over the weekend from Arthur Levitt, and he states, if you tax drivers to stop them speeding, you tax smokers to stop them smoking. I'm guessing now they tax workers to stop them working. Goodbye.
Clifford, Arthur Levitt was the former chairman of the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. It's absolutely spot on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, But, well, the fun sponges of the Labour Party want to suck every bit of pleasure out of life they can for us all. But anyway, can we mention that story on the front page, seeing as we're talking about the budget, please?
You can talk about whatever you want, love.
Thank you. What happens with these budget speeches, they're often, the budget document, is often a lot longer and more complex than what we hear in the speech to Parliament. And, of course, the Telegraph have done a deep dive into the budget document, and fair play to them today, because they reveal that in the past, i.e. up until last week, a young person who's suffering from anxiety or ADHD was actually there was a requirement that they did each week 12 hours a week of education or unpaid training, right? Got to be a good idea, hasn't it, for a young person with anxiety or ADHD, because it's going to hopefully prepare them prepare them for further education, further training, and guess what? The world of employment. And we all know how good work is for you. It's good for the soul. It's good for well-being.
Are you sure about that? Isn't it better to sit at home and get some benefits?
Oh, according to some.
All right, then.
Anyway, guess what? That requirement to do 12 hours has been scrapped, and the parents can still get the benefits.
So you can still claim, even if your child who's got ADHD, doesn't go to school, doesn't go to college, doesn't go to work.
You can still get your benefits.
Why have people not learned from the fact, and I will never get involved in the COVID debate because it'll just send me over the edge, but surely one of the biggest disasters of what happened was that school kids spent months at home with no interaction. I don't understand how we can say that if you are suffering from depression or anxiety, and I realise there are different levels more than most people, genuinely I mean that, surely some form of interaction, some form of just desire to get up and do something is far better for the brain and for your overall health than sitting at home on your own.
Getting out of the front door, going for a walk, saying good morning or good afternoon to somebody, engaging perhaps in a brief chat with someone walking their dog, just meeting other people, bumping into your neighbours, having a conversation. Those early steps towards recovery, of course, are vital.
0344 499 1000. This is Talk. Are you one of, the alarm clock Britons, the early risers who are the lifeblood of this nation? We welcome your calls. Also your text 87222. I think that doing this show just for 45 minutes has affected me. I think I need to go live on my own. I'm now going to say good morning to myself. Morning, Jeremy.
Morning, Jezza. Jeremy from Bradford here. My thoughts are that benefits should only be paid for 6 months, and after 6 months, you shouldn't be able to get anything. And that should be within a 12-month period or 2-year period. It cuts down benefits, and it cuts down people on benefits and not out getting a job.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you. It's 7:15. We're live across the United Kingdom on the 1st of December. This is Talk. It's breakfast. It's Jeremy Kyle with the indomitable Peter Blacksley. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Hold on a second. John from Carmarthen. Hi, Jez, and the indomitable Peter Blacksley. I am loving your party. They are hoovering up all the nutters and politically moronic student idiots and putting them on show for all of us sensible people to have a very good belly laugh. Keep the clips coming. We need a good laugh. After that disgraceful budget. Good morning, gentlemen. Peter, spot on as ever. Benefits are basically only for immigrants and people who don't want to work. See you, Pete, on the 17th of January.
Marvellous.
Nottingham Theatre. What have I become? You're sort of PR agent? Oh, God. Morning, all. Could you imagine the field day Starmer would have if one of Boris's cabinet was sentenced to 2 years? Starmer would be demanding Boris put her on a flight himself to face the music. Another Labour lawbreaker. You've got news on this. This is because anti-corruption minister you're waking up to, Tulit Sadiq, has just been sentenced to 2 years imprisonment in Bangladesh for corruption.
Yes, and I've done some research during the break.
Yeah.
And I can reveal that the UK, sadly, does not have an extradition treaty with Bangladesh.
No.
But, and I'm now reading directly from the government website, so there may be reasons to be cheerful. Even if the UK has no extradition arrangement or treaty with a particular territory, it may be possible for that territory to make an extradition request to the UK. So they have to be dealt with by the Secretary of State. So Bangladesh, if you're listening, the Bangladeshi government, please make an extradition request to the UK. Let's get her sent out to your jail so she can serve her time.
It's not going to happen, though, is it? Because do you know her constituency is next door to Starmer's? They've been politically close forever. Neil on Stoke-on-Trent says a very good point. He says, hearing that Tulit Sadiq's been sentenced to 2 years in jail, surely that will mean there will have to be a by-election in a constituency. Oh, we've got some more breaking news. It's coming thick and fast this morning on Talk, where the nation comes to speak. Today's live from number 10. Larry the cat is pregnant, apparently.
Really?
Apparently. That's from Mick. How Mick knows that Larry the cat's pregnant, I've no idea.
Well, Larry must be non-binary then.
Oh, no, he was in Liverpool at the Your Party conference. He's identifying as a cat. His name's actually Mary.
Oh.
Yeah, so Larry the cat is in fact a figment of your imagination. Morning, Jez. Nice to see you back. This is Kaz from Staffordshire. So the anti-corruption minister has been found guilty of corruption. Yes, you couldn't make it up, no. The hypocrisy of this government is off the scale. Good riddance to her for a couple of years and hopefully the bloody rest of them. Tony says, good morning, gang. Tony Gannon. Rachel Reeves was manipulating the markets too. This is interesting. It's also wrong. And there's a very interesting point about Rachel Reeves, which I want to go back to. In that interview yesterday with Trevor Phillips, the brilliant Trevor Phillips, who just is like a dog with a bone, love him, on Sky, she kept saying, but I mean, we inherited this black hole, and it's all... She always throws out Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, right? Always. Liz Truss, some of what Liz Truss said was OK, it was too quick, it turned into the market spooked, OK? Yep. Isn't it interesting that the market spooked for Liz Truss, right, and she still uses her? I would suspect it won't be long before the market spook over this woman's incompetence. That's what this country should be worried about, don't you think?
It's a very, very valid point. And these investigations that are now, I'm sure, will result as after Nigel Farage's letter, after complaints to the Ethics Committee and the such like, all of which will have to be very much looked at.
Of course.
That is going to unsettle markets because I'm sure they want somebody in number 11 that can be trusted who is going to tell the truth. And shouldn't we all demand of our politicians that old-fashioned thing that they just tell the truth?
I couldn't agree more. I'm laughing because this is the greatest text ever. Could you say good morning to Max in Minchinhampton?
Good morning, Max in Minchinhampton.
Morning, JK, or should I say comrade. I had just a minute ago torn up my membership of Reform UK after that Your Party clip They've persuaded me to join, and I've given up drinking. I'm now identifying as non-winery. Hey, non-winery, we love that. Morning, Hev. How we doing?
Good morning, Jeremy and Peter. Hev from Kent. Yeah, I'm on benefits. I'm disabled, but I'm up at 6 o'clock every morning. I struggle to walk. I'm in constant pain. I use a disability buggy, but I still go out in the street and try and clear the drains so they're not blocked up when the rain comes. I clean up any glass and stuff, and this is all on my scooter or my buggy. You know, everybody should put in something. You know, even if it's just litter picking up other people's dog poo bags. It just disgusts me that people think that they have to do nothing, or it's okay to do nothing but sit on their rump. I'm disgusted. I still do the best I can, and I look after my street. So everybody should put in something.
Beautiful.
That, for all the people who, whenever we talk about the fact that the benefits are given out too readily, that we've created a generation of entitled people who are lazy, that'll be the best voice note of the year. Disabled, on benefits, and giving something back. Hev is the reason that I want to go to work and pay my taxes, and I'm happy that this country has it. Hev can see people are taking advantage. That is the point, Peter Blexley, isn't it?
In pain, in discomfort,
yes,
on her walker, looking after her neighbourhood. What a joyous, wonderful, contributory thing. Equally as important as Shane the mechanic. Equally as important as everybody else getting up and doing their bit, because that is exactly what she's doing.
If you are part of Alarm Clock Britain, we love you for tuning in. Talk is where the nation comes to talk. 0344 499 1000. We're coming back with Calamity Lammy. It gets better, I promise you.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Talks, where the nation comes to talk. 0344 499 1000. Peter Blexley has been with us all hour, looking at the papers, front page of the Telegraph. Before we wrap, Pete, overhauling jury trials. This is Calamity Lammy's idea to drop juries and just have judges decide will lead to more free speech convictions.
Any experienced detective will have sat in a court and seen juries return incorrect verdicts and sometimes perverse verdicts. But I guarantee that that detective, just like me, will fully support jury trial. Not only is it part of the system, it is the safeguard. If you and I were to fall foul of the criminal justice system and grip the rail in the dock, at a Crown Court, at the Old Bailey, standing trial, it is a fundamental right that we are tried by 12 people of our peers and not by the establishment, not by the executive, not by a single judge, not by a panel of judges. This government and its suggestion to abolish jury trials shows just what an autocratic, dangerous, drunk on power shambles they are. This is very, very dangerous and must be fought tooth and nail.
Couldn't agree more. Let's talk about the confidence, or the lack of confidence, that people have in judges right now. We've seen so much about judges making what most normal people will go with the most bizarre decisions. You're absolutely right, it is a safeguard. We'd love your thoughts on that. We haven't got a lot left. I just want to go back. Obviously, you're waking up to the news. Well, you are waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves has been accused of lying to the Commons, to lying to you, the British people. Now her own cabinet are turning on her. It's all about this benefit surplus. She said, we're skint. I've got to raise taxes on all people, really, to make, us balance. The truth is she was not skint. She was better off than she let on. She raised taxes, peeps, to pay for people on benefits, which has led to a big outcry from people saying, so what message are you sending, that working and paying tax and saving is no good? There are two sides to the argument, though, and Pete said it at 6 o'clock, and we've said it all morning, and we always will on Talk. There are genuine people who cannot work, who want to work, who are on benefits, and I and Pete and every one of us of the early morning alarm clock risers, as I call us, right, will be happy to do that. We took a call last week. I wasn't here. This was Karen. This is the other side. Have a listen to Karen, peeps.
I am sick to death of being classed as a scrounger. You try living on £981 a month. Not everybody is a benefit scrounger who doesn't want to work. I don't choose to be ill.
And that is the reason that we have to have this discussion, because people like her should not be frightened, should they, Pete? People like her should know that our society and our state will defend them to the hilt. People like her should know that actually the people that are scrounging are taking money from her, right?
And at the stroke of a pen, I would double that £981. Simply just like that. Where do I sign if I were in authority? I do not want a woman like her crying, suffering such financial hardship. And by the very same token, I do not want the reckless and the feckless lying on their backs, opening their legs, shelling out more children they can't pay for, and scrounging.
Couldn't agree more. The indomitable Peter Blexley. Thank you, my friend. Are you all right? You're off on the tour now, are you?
Very well, thank you. 8th of January opens at Bromley.
Almost 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. JK on Talks, where the nation comes to have their say. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Keep the voice notes coming. James Price, former government special advisor, after the news at 7, and loads of voice notes. You're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves is allegedly a liar. Really? Even the cabinet are now briefing against her. You couldn't make it up, peeps.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, my friends. It is the 1st of December 2025. JK, on the home of common sense, where the nation comes to talk. It's your show. Listen, it's not your party. That's another story. It's your show. Whatever you want to talk about this morning, you are waking up to some extraordinary headlines. The budget saga rolls on and on. Rachel Reeves, the woman who stood in front of us, a few days ago and said, I need to raise taxes. I need to raise taxes because there's a blimmin' great black hole left to us by those dreadful Tories. Turns out she lies, allegedly. There wasn't a black hole, there was a surplus. So the tax rises that she's employed for you, for alarm clock Britain, as I call it, the people who get out of bed and go to work and do everything correct, was actually to increase benefits. Now, this creates such a debate because some people say, oh, but yes, look, we should have a benefit system. Yes, of course we should. We should help the needy, the genuine. But I'm afraid it would be also fair to say we now live in a country where people take advantage, and those people are being told it's OK to stay at home. Don't send your kids to school. Have more babies. We'll pay for you. That creates real resentment. 0344 499 1000. James Price on the way. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Dan from Kent. A couple of things. Your party, I know it's panto season, but as this where politics has become, I mean, add that to the Green Party, they're all mad. And another thing, Tulip Sadiq, will she become the first one out, one in with Bangladesh? I wonder.
Good morning. Listen, it's brilliant, right? The two news stories he's responding to, if you're just waking up. Shocking news earlier. The Tulip Sadiq, the anti-corruption minister, has just been sentenced to 2 years in jail in Bangladesh for corruption, which has created a lot of response this morning, 87222. And also, just very quickly, before we get serious, your party, set up, of course, by Jeremy Bitterman Corbyn and Zara Fruitcake Nutjob, they basically had their conference yesterday. They're all arguing already amongst themselves. It took 4 months to come up with your party. It's not my party, it's not your party. Eventually, they had their conference, and did they have a bunch of increasingly hysterical people. What can I say? I just want to make your Monday in the dark wind and rain. I just want to make it a little bit better. This was a person who stood up yesterday and spoke at the Your Party conference. Go.
My name is Joseph. I use she, they pronouns. First, I feel like it's most important to address people's concerns with this option, that it will allow transphobic and racist and otherwise bigoted candidates to stand in the name of your party. As we have seen with the two MPs who recently resigned after making transphobic comments.
Participant, please speak to the option.
I am speaking to the option. I'm addressing people's concerns. I am addressing people's concerns with the option, such as to effectively speak to the option. Thank you.
But I ask you...
I think it would be fair to say the talk tries to be as balanced as possible, but I'm done with your party. It's a joke. And I think if you are considering voting for your party, you're probably nuts. Anyway, there we go. We say a very good morning on a Monday, the 1st of December, to the legend that is James Price, former government... Oh, look, he's looking very serious this morning. JP, how are you?
Well, I'm very well, comrade. I use he, them pronouns. I mean, it is just wonderful that figure that we've just seen, quite clearly a bloke saying that he uses she pronouns. And I can say that because he obviously doesn't have a real job and therefore won't be awake at this time along with Alarm Clock Britain and won't know that we're taking the mickey out of him. But, I mean, goodness me, that poor man has got some parents out there who probably, perfectly nice people. Imagine the ignominy of having a son who goes to the Your Party conference.
In a tea cosy that was, in fact, multicoloured. There we go. That's a cross between Benny from Crossroads and one of those people. No, I'm not getting there. James, welcome. I was off last week, as you know. This whole budget thing from afar, I was in Spain with my kid and I literally was sitting there thinking, so have we got to a point then in this country where we are saying under this government that if you go to work, pay tax, save your money and do right by your family, that's actually not what you should be doing. You should actually stay at home, shell out kids and we will help you. The budget, this woman, what she said and what she did, this is raging this morning in front of every newspaper, especially the Times. Ministers are now saying she misled them. This is huge, isn't it, JP?
Yeah, absolutely right. First of all, I'm glad that you didn't change your ticket to being a one-wayer and to stay in Spain.
No.
I'm glad you've come back, although if Rachel Reeves does go ahead with an exit tax, we may all be stuck here forever now. Look, it is absolutely astonishing, and we'll come on to that in a minute about members of the cabinet complaining to the Times. But just to take it on the economics alone, the whole thing is so unbelievably damaging. What you will see is more people leaving the country, more either millionaires themselves or just hardworking, decent young people who think, I'm never going to be able to buy a house, I'm never going to be able to build up any kind of wealth or crack on in life, because the harder I work, the more my money gets taken away from people. And actually, not even those who are real high flyers, but because of the kind of stealth tax that Rachel Reeves has imposed, of allowing more people with what they call fiscal drag to, as they earn a little bit more, to be caught into higher tax brackets, huge swinging tax increases that are, frankly, a tax on aspiration and people wanting to get on. And in a world in which you did lock the borders and prevent anybody from getting out and turning us all into kind of economic serfs, that's one thing. But it's very, very easy for people to leave the country these days. And we've actually seen in the recent set of migration figures at the start of last week that a much higher number than expected by the government of young British people emigrating to find a better life somewhere else. And yet we were importing huge numbers of people into the country at the same time. I cannot think of a bigger dereliction of duty to this country than what the Labour government is doing.
The thing is, Kemi Badenoch, and I have to say this, I was away. I thought it was an outstanding performance last week in her response to the budget. I genuinely thought that was the first time I saw her doing the job correctly. But it's almost as if, this is interesting, from Terry, are Starmer Reeves bribing the unemployed to vote Labour? You could ask that. You could say, are you dropping the age to vote to 16? Are you flooding this country with people who shouldn't be here? And are you now saying to people who... And let's make the point, Jay, we must keep making the point. There is plenty of people who want to work, who are not able to, who are mentally ill, disabled, and I will forever, ever, ever say that those people should be defended, and I'm happy to pay my taxes, but we have to have this debate. Alarm Clock Britain is fed up to the back teeth, in my humble opinion, with people who are sat on their backsides shelling out kids, as Peter Blexley said, and being rewarded for it. It's not fair. It's not fair.
No, it's absolutely not fair at all. Let's just take... you're completely right that we should have to continue making the caveat that people who really need the support, nobody begrudges. And if you do care about people who can't work either through physical illness or mental illness or whatever it may be, you should be even more angry at this, because it means that there's going to be less money and less sympathy for those who need it. There's an astonishing story in the Times of a doctor who was spoken to, of a woman who walked into his GP surgery and said, I need a sick note, I can't work. Why not? Well, I can't walk. He says, yeah, you can. I just saw you walk into my office. To which point her bloke says, you're going to give her that note, and starts openly threatening a GP. I just shoved that bloke in prison for 5 years to set an example.
When I tell you this story, I've told it before, you'll just laugh. The Jeremy Kyle show had been going for literally a matter of months. And I'm because I didn't really understand what I was doing at the beginning, and there was sort of this big family debate, and it seemed to centre entirely on the mother, who was sat in the audience. And I just genuinely went up to her one of the breaks and said, you seem to be central to all of this. Why are you not on stage? And she said, because if I go on stage, Jezza, and they see me walking, they'll take away my disability benefit. And you go, sorry? And we have long not wanted to have that discussion in this country because it is painful. But what you just said, I will keep banging out. We should be having it because the genuine people like Karen, that voicemail I played from last week, people who are genuine are fed up of being labelled scroungers, and they're missing out on perhaps more money than they should get because the system's being gamed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the reason there is a squeeze on all of these systems, rightly, is because we know there's a huge amount of waste and fraud and abuse and all the rest of it, which means that there is an incentive, rightly, to check that people who are claiming should get it. And for the people who really need it, I totally understand. It's quite traumatic. I've had people in my own family that have this. When it comes to new assessments, you get yourself worked up into real conniptions and worried and make yourself poorly and all the rest of it. And in a world in which there wasn't this huge amount of waste and abuse and the public finances were a lot better, you would be able to look at someone and go, right, you know what, you can get a long time off poorly and we'll have the resources to help you get better and all the rest of it. But at a time when there's been bingo economic growth going on, because Labour doesn't understand growth, and there's been all this sort of horrendous stories that we were talking about, you can't do that. And that's why it gets so nasty and so mean. When you don't have any economic growth, people end up fighting over the crumbs. We could do a hell of a lot more, and we could do longer, more sustainable solutions if we had more economic growth and more innovation. It was well known that Japan has a very old society, for example. I'm just picking one random example. And so they've developed all kinds of weird and wonderful robotic technologies and things to help out old and infirm people. We could do something like that with the least sort of robotic and automated economy in the G7. We could do all that kind of stuff if we had the economic growth and the will to innovate. Instead, we don't, so we keep people on the margins.
I couldn't agree more. I would, as a former guy, let me read this to you, because this is now becoming, for Rachel Reeves, front of the Daily Mail. Nigel Farage, look at this. I mean, this is really interesting. He says that she must face a sleaze probe over what he says are her lies. The own cabinet are saying it, Farage is saying it, the media are saying it. Couple of texts for you. Ben, this cretinous government weaponised everything to split our society. Week one, they created the far-right categorisation of normal people. The budget has weaponised those in need of benefit against the fraudulent. They've weaponised farmers and pensioners, and they've weaponised children's identity. That is how I see it, says Ben. Betty, this is good. Morning, JK and team. Very clear from day one, the 22 billion black hole was the full pay demands of all unions and net zero madness promised to the party donors. They failed to realise the civil and public services are running the country for their own benefit and pensions. Also, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But the truth of the matter is, Starmer today is allegedly going to come out and support her and talk about how benefits should be cut. Don't even understand that. You do look at it, Jay, and you do say, without being rude, this woman is completely out of her depth, isn't she?
I think so. I think it's time that she either resigns or is fired, frankly. And I've said before about this, that she's probably still the best they've got, which is absolutely terrifying. So I don't say it lightly that she needs to go, but the level of manipulation of the facts, to call it. Do you think
she lied? Yes or no?
100%. 100%.
Well, okay.
She either lied or she's so damn stupid that she hasn't worked out what she's done. I can't quite believe it's that bad.
Well, let's watch it yesterday. This is on the excellent Trevor Phillips on Sky. This is Rachel Reeves saying, well, she was asked if she lied. Have a watch.
I just asked you, did you lie? And I have to say, the answer I was looking for was no. I didn't hear the word no.
But you also asked about welfare in that question.
No, I just asked you, did you lie?
Of course I didn't.
Good, OK. By the way, was the Prime Minister informed through all of this process?
Yes.
And he was right there with you on it all?
Yes, of course.
Decisions you made, what you said on November the 4th?
Yes, we are a partnership.
We are a partnership, which would mean that if she has lied, if Nigel's successful in getting the ethics advisor to look into this, because I believe, and I don't know, you'll know far more than me, that lying to the House of Commons causes all sorts of sanctions. Think Boris Johnson. If she's lied and they're in a partnership and he's part of that, aren't they both in trouble, James Price?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think this is a really stupid thing that Starmer is about to do today, which, I mean, obviously true to form, that's what he always does. But he's going to come out and roam behind it, which he's done, by the way, with other ministers before. He's had full confidence in people before and then has to change his mind when the facts change again and all the rest of it. But we've got a situation where Starmer is going to come and do this speech and say, I'm totally with her. And you've already got in the Times newspaper other members of the cabinet saying, wait, you even lied to us. We didn't even realise this. And when you have that level of kind of open mutiny going on, I think that's a death knell for a government. We saw that with Boris Johnson, where ministers were being sent out to defend things that then proved not to be true, and that the number 10 team had sort of fibbed to them. That was after, 14 years or something, or 12 years at that point of the Tories. We've got this in kind of 14 months now.
Yep.
And this level of incompetence that goes on and on. on top of the fact that it's probably not just incompetence, it's lying, on top of the fact that it's going to be really economically damaging. What is the point of this woman being there anymore? It's absolutely astonishing. She's got the economy going down the toilet. She's got mutinous backbenchers that she hasn't even managed to successfully bribe with all of our own money, because it turns out she's lied to all of them. And she might be about to bring down Keir Starmer. Other than that, great budget.
This is one of the things that I love about Alarm Clock Britain doing this show is that people, you know, who genuinely work their backsides off. Just listen to this, peeps. This is Steve, right? Jez, I started in my taxi at 3 a.m. I'm now in my waterproofs raking bunkers as I work at the local golf course. I'll work here from 7 to 2, then I'll be out in my taxi for another 3 hours before collecting my kids. Can somebody please bloody well explain to me why I bother? I am killing myself for the lazy backsides of Britain who are breeding and feeding. My kids are my responsibility. They are my priority. Not looking after Vicky Pollard and her 7-a-side football team. Peeved off is an understatement. You've got to accept that is absolutely a micro image of what's going on in this country. Why would Steve bother? Because it's in Steve, because Steve's a proper normal person and he's a father who's doing right by his family.
Yeah, well, I've got no answer to you. The only thing I can try and help people who are listening and working as they get ready to go to work to understand this stuff is, even if you thought that politicians are lazy and selfish and arrogant and entitled toads and all the rest of it, and a lot of them are decent people, but a lot of them are, and you think they are only interested in helping themselves out. Therefore, you think the thing they would be interested in, at the very least, even if not the good of the country or helping Steve out or anything else, would be to get themselves re-elected. You'd think that would be the overwhelming thing. They're not even interested in that, as this Labour Party is proving. They're so mad and bad and dangerous with their ideology. They're staring down the barrel, I think, of probably one of the great defeats at the next general election, as they're hemorrhaging support from everywhere. And all the people who voted for them last time thinking, my gosh, I can't believe we were fooled by these people lying to us so obviously. So why is it that they're doing all these terrible and bad things? Because the incentive structure, even the mad, hard lefties, whether it's the Islamists or the mad progressives or whatever, are pushing them to do this stuff, to ruin the economy, to give more money to people who don't work and all the rest of it. And they're realising slowly that they're never going to get re-elected, and yet they're still doing it. I mean, it's a pathology, right? And this is why it's so dangerous to vote for left-wing parties, because they always end up in hock to the most mad people you could ever imagine.
Couldn't agree more. 7:20, just before we let you go. For me, I mean, honestly, this is about sums up this government. Breaking news an hour ago, straight face, Kyle. The former anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has overnight, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just waking up, been sentenced to 2 years in jail in Bangladesh. Yeah, you guessed it, for corruption, James Price. We can't make this up, man.
This is the anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq. Again, the stupid thing about this is that everyone has known for a long time that Tulip Siddiq's aunt was a very dodgy prime minister in the form of Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh. And we knew that when Starmer appointed her. And we know about some of the people from that party who were allegedly, paying for houses for Tulip Siddiq. We've seen her behaviour when she's ever been asked about this, when there was a pregnant news reporter who was trying to ask her questions. And she went, "Oh, is the pregnancy okay? Is it tough for you?" In this kind of terrifying, threatening manner that she was later forced to apologise for. Why would you put such an obviously bad egg in your government when you've got this great majority?
Well, he put a tea leaf.
Not got their incentives right.
He put a tea leaf as the transport secretary, didn't he? That didn't work out at all well. Oh my God! Listen, Jay, extraordinary, great to have you on. Come back soon. Really appreciate it. Top man James Price, former government advisor. 7:22. You with talks where the nation comes to have its say. You can see it. You can hear it. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Because it's the 1st of December, the old talkTV app has gone. Get the new one. Download it right now. See it, hear it, take us wherever you want. Not the Kazi, though. It's not a great thought. Try as I might to talk about anything other than Rachel Reeves. It's all you're on to, isn't it? Morning, Shawnee.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. I'm not really one for calling for politicians to resign. Over the last couple of years, we've seen endless amounts of politicians call for everyone to resign for stupid reasons. However, on this time, I think she should resign, and I think Keir Starmer should too. You can't literally sit there for years spouting about a £22 billion black hole, blaming Brexit, blaming Donald Trump, blaming the Viking invasion, and then put up taxes to fill the black hole only for them not to be one. You know, this is blatant lies, and this is why everybody hates Labour. They just can't tell the truth. Great show, mate.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Welcome back. 7:25. You're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves and her pre-budget lies are still the #1 news story in town, my friends. Now her own cabinet are accusing her of lying. So you've got cabinet senior colleagues calling her a liar. A lot of backbenchers, most of the House of Commons and most of the newspapers. It's on the front page of everything. But Starmer, proving yet again that he can absolutely read a room not, is today going to come out and defend her. Defend the fact that she said that we were skint, and in fact she had a surplus, and then she raised taxes on all these working people, alarm clock Britain, to pay for people to sit on their backsides and have more babies. And I keep saying it, and I will. Yes, Loads of genuine people who deserve benefits. But please get this in your brain. For every genuine person who thinks that anybody is attacking that system, we are, because people are taking money from you by gaming the system. Peter Blexley said it earlier. I'm just watching. We have tried on Talk, on this breakfast show, to get Labour to come and talk. They just won't. They've sent out Darren Jones to defend everything this morning. This is the man who said, and I quote on Newsnight, "The boats are full of women and children." No, they're not, Darren. He's out. I wonder how he's going to... This is the best story of the morning, by the way, if you're just waking up. Former anti-corruption minister Tulip Siddiq. Do you remember her? Yeah, she's been sentenced to 2 years overnight in Bangladesh, where her aunt was the Prime Minister, for corruption. Somebody said, well, at least 2 years... it should be a result for her, because her aunt got sentenced to death. Phil, good morning.
Hi, Jezza. It's Phil in Nottingham here. Big fan of the show, matey. Quick point. Tulip Siddiq, with her conviction in Bangladesh. Keir Starmer is a lawyer who respects international law, ergo giving away the Chagos Islands, running the ECHR to the letter, etc. So is he going to respect Bangladeshi law and have Tulip Siddiq extradited? Because surely if he doesn't, then that's a massive double standard.
What a tremendous suggestion that is. I love that, Phil. Thank you so much indeed. Double standards, the Labour Party. Here's somebody who will stick up for them, no doubt. The newest MP, Runcorn and Helsby for reform. She's back. Sarah Pochin, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. I've been in Spain for a week with my boy. Delighted to be back and delighted to have you on the show. Can I ask you initially, quickly, because as an ex-magistrate, Tulip Siddiq, it's just that you can't buy this stuff. Overnight, the anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, sentenced to 2 years in Bangladeshi prison for corruption, Sarah Pochin. No, by the way, we checked this, no sort of, what's it called when you can, I don't know what the name of the thing is, when you can move people around. Extradition, there you are. Well done, Jez. No extradition treaty. Where do you stand on this?
Well, look, you know, it's shocking behaviour by the Labour Party, isn't it? It's anybody in public life that does a job like I do, that does a job like Tulip Siddiq does, should be living their lives to the highest standards. You know, I'm so aware of not doing anything wrong because, you know, the minute I sort of park on a double yellow line or God knows what, you know, or don't pay my parking fine, you know, the press are all over it. So how this can happen is beyond belief, isn't it? It really is.
And it's interesting, that last caller, I don't know if you had said this, but they said that if Keir Starmer, the world's most wholesome human rights lawyer who gave away the Chagos Islands and talks incessantly about respecting other nations, had a degree or a shred of decency, he'd surely extradite her himself. But he won't, because she's a Labour MP and it will absolutely say everything about the party, won't it?
Well, of course, we'd welcome her gone. We'd welcome a by-election. And, of course, that's the last thing Keir Starmer wants, because that undoubtedly, I'm sure, could result in our sixth Reform MP. So they will do everything they can possible not to bring a by-election. But whether or not she's extradited or not, surely the mere fact that this has happened means that she should stand down and there should be a by-election in this seat. I mean, I'm actually not even sure which seat is hers, but
next
whether or
door
not
to Keir Starmer's in London. He's Holborn, of course. She's next door. They've been close forever, so that'll be interesting. Sarah, loads to talk to you about. Before we get on to something that I'm really interested in your opinion on, which is the jury trials calamity under David Calamity Lammy. Just very quickly, all the newspapers this morning, front of the Times, ministers are now briefing the Times that Rachel Reeves misled them about this black hole. The leader of your party, Nigel Farage, is going to be on after 9:30. He says Reeves must face sleaze probe after over budget lies. What's your take on this, Sarah Pochin?
Look, this budget was a shambles, and it has been for weeks before the actual budget day. As we all know, none of us needed to sit in the chamber. The whole thing had been leaked. Rachel Reeves had been playing around with the markets as it was, testing, you know, things like that income tax rise, going effectively overtly against their manifesto, whereas in the end she decided to go around the sneaky route and bring people into paying more tax by fiscal drag. But people are not fools. rules.
No.
They know what's going to happen. I have people only last week, at the end of last week, when I'm in my constituency, coming in and telling me they understand, they get it, they understand what fiscal drag is. You know, this, you can't pull the wool over people's eyes anymore and assume people are not going to understand what's happening. It's an absolute disgrace. And the fact is that, you know, in my opinion, and I don't know what Nigel's going to say at 9:30, but a lot of this sort of policy seems to be all about keeping her backbenchers happy, putting up or making sure there's billions in this welfare system that we strongly say should be reformed. I mean, and only this morning I read that there's now softer checks for youngsters, I think, with ADHD and anxiety.
Oh, you can still get benefit. Yeah, you don't have to send your kid to school if he's got ADHD or on a course. Keep him at home, and we'll still give you the benefits. The point is, Sarah, what scares people, and it shouldn't, right, is the people who will say, who I am happy to go to work for, who you are, to pay taxes, because as a society, I think the welfare state was the greatest invention in the modern world. It said a lot about us, but it is being played, garnered, screwed over, and the genuine people, this is what a message I want to get across, are missing out because people who shouldn't be getting it are getting it. Listen, the main story that I wanted to talk to you about today, 20 years experience as a magistrate. I'm talking to our next Justice Secretary, Home Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, trust me on that. Calamity Lammy, help me out here. He wants to scrap jury trials. On the front of almost every newspaper this morning, the Telegraph, I thought, did it really, really well. The Telegraph said that overhauling jury trials, Sarah, will lead to more free speech convictions. Your thoughts, please?
Well, the point is that I mean, I really feel this subject so deeply and care about this so deeply. Yes, because I did 20 years as a magistrate. But the fact is that a jury, a trial in Crown Court is about a judge and a jury that works together. So the judge will advise on the law, but the jury takes the view of the people. They make a decision on the facts. Now, if you take the jury out of that equation, you are just left with a judge. And what's to say, very difficult to get rid of a judge once they're in place. Now, what's to say that judge isn't the best judge, isn't acting with the best integrity? Yeah. The only people that can bring that can hold a judge to account is a jury, by effectively finding the individual, whether it's guilty or not guilty, but based on their facts. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you take the jury out of the equation.
They're a safeguard, are they not? And we've seen enough examples recently of blatantly judges, I'm going to call them left-wing, with an absolute, I don't know, agenda, and presumably impartiality in working with what you've got on the statute book is what a judge should do. I see 12 people from all walks of life and all age groups, right, as a safeguard and a safety net against a judge's biases. Yeah. That's how I'd see it.
And we know, don't we? We've seen it, the politicisation of the judiciary now in our society is frightening. I talk a lot about two-tier justice. There's endless examples of where judges are becoming politicised. Judges are doing the will of the government, and that is not what the judicial system should be about. And this whole point is that a judge reflects the state, a jury reflects the people. If you take the people out of the equation, you've only got the state administering justice, and that is where corruption can start. That is where politicisation will grow, and it's something that we absolutely must not allow. Now, what I would say is that there is a terrible backlog, 80,000 cases waiting to go to trial in this country, but this is not the way to deal with it, because and of course, as a magistrate, I would say, you know, justice denied, justice delayed is justice denied. There's no question about that, but this is not the way to fix it. This is damaging and as I say, potentially taking away the absolute basis of our society, law and order in this country.
How would reform fix, by your admission, not sure that there would be a complete answer, but I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah.
80,000 backlog in trials. How would reform deal with that?
Well, I think that the Leveson report, which came out earlier this year, recommended that in some cases, and I haven't got time to go into details of different types of cases, but in some cases, it could be dealt with by a judge and 2 magistrates. So in a magistrates court, you always have 3 magistrates. I was always chairing the bench, and it effectively behaves like a mini jury in a trial in a magistrates court. You could do that with so many more cases that go through to Crown Court, but you sit with a judge and 2 magistrates. So Leveson, I think, had something there that you could make happen and make work. But what Lammy wants to do is go a step further than Leveson ever recommended, and take the magistrates out of that equation. That's what's dangerous. So in my view, if I was Justice Secretary, I would explore that idea of the judge and 2 magistrates. It makes sense. There's been millions of times over the years when I've had cases that have gone through to a full Crown Court jury, which could have adequately been dealt with by a judge and 2 magistrates.
God, you speak such sense. It's so good to have you on, looking so happy on this Monday. Pinching a punch for the first of the month. Have you had your advent calendar?
Yes, I have, but I haven't eaten my chocolate. I'm saving it for my cup of coffee.
Well, I'm going to just read something out which is absolutely fantastic. It's very, very quick. It says, morning, it's Glenn from Leeds. He said, I think my advent calendar, guys, is going to last longer than Rachel Thieves. Interesting. Don't eat more than day one, though. The amazing and brilliant Sarah Pochin, MP, a Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby. Thank you very much indeed. On the way, by the way, good friend of mine, Sharon Davis, MB, reacting to an extraordinary story of Nike, who've been criticised quite rightly for allowing men to take part in a race for women. But you can't get away from Tulip Sadiq, peeps, can you? They still are alarm clock rises. I think you should be on your way to work by now, for God's sake. We've been up since 4. Listen, Tulip Sadiq, the anti-corruption minister, jailed overnight in Pakistan. Well, not jailed, given a jail sentence overnight in Bangladesh for corruption. Morning, Ian.
Morning, Jeremy. I think Nigel Farage's idea of putting businessmen looking after business, etc., is a great idea. But unbeknown to us, Starmer beat him to it by putting a corrupt person in charge of corruption. You couldn't make it up. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. What is it? 19 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk, where the nation comes to talk. Have your say on everything. You're waking up to the news that Rachel Reeves, who allegedly lied about a black hole that didn't exist, is going to be defended today by Keir Starmer. Not that he's ever been known to lie before. Cabinet's at war. Honestly, members of the Cabinet are literally briefing the Times journalists going, she misled us as well. Everybody's infighting. Loads going on. David Calamity Lammy wants to ban juries so that there'll just be left-wing judges to make sure that people get away with things, allegedly. But the great news is overnight Tulip Sadiq, the anti-corruption minister, has been sentenced to 2 years in jail in Bangladesh. For corruption. Interesting. We have to say a very good morning. What a lovely... I love this lady. Sharon Davis, MB, a very good morning.
Good morning to you. You're very jolly for someone that now has to get up very early in the morning.
Well, there's a spring. You know, I'm 60. It takes a while. It takes a while. Like, you know, listen, you and I, we've been... Yeah, but once I get going and the drugs kick in, you know, it's great.
Coffee.
Yeah, coffee. 87 cups. This is an extraordinary story. I'm going to let you tell it, because this is... And I just want to give a mention to you and your team, because you've just launched the Women's Sports Union, haven't you, specifically targeting stories like this.
Thank you.
Tell us about that, and then tell us about this story in Nike, about Nike.
Yeah, so the Women's Sports Union is a non-for-profit organisation which is all about supporting, protecting, buzzword, and growing female participation in sport. We used to lose young girls at 14, 15. We're now losing them at 11, right, from sport, which is really horrendous. But of course, we don't even have girls' sport anymore. We have, you know, anyone into this category sport. So 34 sports in the country here that still allow men and boys to identify into our girls' sport. And we only get 5% of the opportunities and 5% of the sponsorship dollars. So we really need to protect that opportunity. And that's why we created it. So come and join us, come and donate. We want to fight to get our girls' sport
Can I
back.
just
That's
ask
really
for you,
what happened.
Women's Sports Union, where can they get information on that, Sharon?
Online. We're online. We have a fabulous website. You'll get all that information there.
Brilliant. Tell us about the Nike story.
So Nike, I mean, they've got a tremendously bad history. As you will remember, they employed Dylan Mulvaney, you know, a male with no boobs whatsoever, to sell sports bras to women. And then Alison Felix, Olympic champion, she got pregnant. They cancelled her contract. Only this summer, they literally pulled out of sponsoring, testing and financing on how they can shoehorn young boys into girls' sport. That was in America. They literally have a horrendous history of supporting women's sport and actually being extremely hypocritical. And their latest one is an event called After Dark. Now, 2/3, I think it is, no, 3/4 of women actually change their running habits from the winter to the summer. So in other words, in the summer, they will go out and run. The moment it starts to get dark, they get really frightened of it. So Sport England actually produced a report showing that 2/3 of women actually have been harassed whilst they've been out running. So they get worried about it, you know. So a great idea was to put on these events across the world. That's what it was called, After Dark across the world, where women could come along and run together, and they could be safe, and we could promote it. And then they let men. After advertising that it was for women and putting all the advertising out there, all the pictures that it was for women, women turned up and it had men in it. So I don't understand.
Am I allowed to ask the
what is
question
the
that
point?
makes me sound really stupid? So men turned up. Were these men dressed as women, pretending to be women just to get in, or are these just men?
Both. So just men that were just dressed as normal men and were quite happy to identify as normal men, and males that were identifying as females as well. So, you know, an event where women actually had to buy tickets and had to apply for this, who thought it was very much for them to be able to run together, supporting each other, particularly women that probably have been vulnerable, you know, have been attacked when they've been out running before, really thought this was a safe space for them. And then they turned up and there were men there. So I don't understand how hard it is just to give women something that's for them.
And do you know what I find so annoying? And I won't name them, but I've worked with several people over the years who, quite rightly, and you know me, have stuck up for and promoted women's rights, women's safety, women's... And I always want to say to them that this story, that the girls that are being attacked by migrants, the women who are 15, girls 16, go into a change room and a bloke there with his penis, and I'm being completely straight. Why don't you ever hear from those women when these stories come up? Why will people listen to you and I saying, well, that's not really fair to the transgender community? Why do they only defend women's safety? And I mean this genuinely, seemingly when it suits them, but then they jump to another group. Women have an absolute right. I don't get it. Yes.
Yeah, it's platitudes. So we give the platitudes. I mean, 3 women every single week in this country are still murdered by men.
Yeah.
3 women every single week, right? We don't see that on the front pages, you know, and it really should be. It's a horrendous statistic. Things like mixed sex changing rooms are an absolute disaster. So, you know, so pretty much all the sexual assaults that go on in leisure centres and changing rooms are from mixed sex changing rooms. You know, why is that? That's an obvious reason again. So how do we reduce that? Well, we stop mixed sex changing rooms, and that would make that statistic go away straight away. So there are loads of ways that we can actually do things. But first of all, we have to recognise what a female is, and actually in British law, you know, as we saw the Supreme Court clarify earlier this year, it is a biological female. And so the sports that are allowing men to go into women's sport are actually breaking the law. The leisure centres that are allowing men to self-ID into women's change rooms are breaking the law. You know, the Times leaked that document, the guidance document that the government is sitting on. Bridget Phillipson's been sat on now for nearly 3 months. It showed categorically that women's sports should be for women. And that's what, you know, and if you're not doing that, it's sex discrimination. Completely. So the law is on our side, but women are having to crowdfund to be able to get the law applied, and that is what is really...
Well, I'll tell you what, this show and this station, the Women's Sports Union peeps, go online and check it out. Sharon Davis,
thank you.
You know what I think about what you do. You're absolutely fantastic, and I really appreciate your time this one. It's great to have you on, sweetheart. Thank you.
Sport. Be safe, enjoy it.
Brilliant. Listen, never go swimming against her. Sharon Davis, MBE, on Talk Breakfast. We're here until 10 o'clock this morning. Have you say, one of the big news stories, just a little light-hearted way, is your party. You know, Jeremy Corbyn and Sultana, the fruitcake nutter woman. They spent 4 months trying to come up with what they should call their party. And yesterday, they had their first conference. They've decided to call it Your Party. I know it's not your party, it's not my party, but they've decided to call it Your Party. Got a clip of Jeremy Corbyn yesterday, and then, well, let's just see Jezza. This is Jezza at the conference. Go on, Jezza, go on.
Refugees didn't close hospitals. Refugees didn't underfund schools. Refugees didn't bring PFI into hospitals, didn't bring building schools for the future into education. They're the people that will actually fix the problems, because they're the ones who come here to work and help and support us. And if we go down the road of reform, there wouldn't be too many people able to work in our hospital. Reform are no friend of the working class.
I would respectfully suggest that rather than bring people into this country to work, Jezza, you try to do something about the millions of people on benefits, not the genuine ones, who sat on their backsides being funded by a Labour Party that you used to be part of and being told that they don't have to work. But I might be mad. What do you think, Pete?
Your party thing should actually be the renamed Monster Raving Loony Party, because they're all a bunch of bloody loonies by the look of it.
I saw the hotel, and it really is right in the middle of the community. You know what's really heartbreaking, I think, for them is basically the government saying that your safety, your priorities and you'll need to come second to international treaties and international obligations.
Leads into the other issues of women's single-sex spaces, full stop. And it's driving me crazy that as a country we're not having the border debate, which is at the crux of all of this.
We can see from Kamala Harris's failed campaign that even if you do have every single person in Hollywood behind you and you're paying them $5 million to do one speech for your campaign, it still won't work.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it, 7 minutes to 8 o'clock? We're live across the UK. Talk where the nation comes to have its say on the day's news. 0344 419 1000. Voice notes, keep them coming. Text 87222. Jez, this thing about the backlog of court cases that Sarah Pochin was talking about, what's the point of trying to reduce that backlog by rushing cases through if the guilty have no place to be held, i.e. prisons? They're all full. The barracks will be better used to hold non-violent offenders. When Reform get into power, the boats will be automatically stopped and the barracks will be empty. I don't know. Is it Eris? I don't know. The black hole fake news by Reeves is a self-inflicted wound that's made the electorate feel even more depressed and downbeat. If any lie was worth telling, it would have been telling us that everything was going in the right direction. Morning to Rosa. Tulip Sadiq needs a jury. But sadly for her, Lammy has got rid of them all. Andy in Liverpool. Good morning. Oh, another Andy. Hello, Andy.
When it's spring again, they should extradite Tulip to Bangladesh. What a lovely song there to start your Monday morning. Have a good weekend, Jeremy.
Have a good weekend. It's only Monday. Stick to the day job. If you've got one, or sign on, it's probably more profitable. Andy, thank you for your vain attempt at a song. Margaret's in Norfolk. I don't know why I said it like that. Tulip Sadiq gets 2 years for corruption in Bangladesh. That's bloody lenient. Lucy Connolly got 30 months for hurty words. I love this. Lynn in Derby, a very good morning. Thank you for making it talk. She says, Jez, I'm 74 years of age and I'm still working. Only 4 hours, 3 mornings a week now, admittedly, but I've worked full-time for all of my adult life. What for? I hate this government and I cannot see any way of this ever recovering. Good morning from Bill in Romsey. The budget and the lies have given Reform, I reckon, at least 450 seats at the next election. How can we wait 3.5 years? Now, you might have heard this story over the weekend that not British Airways, but a certain airline, aircraft, I think it's a Boeing A320 or A321, there were problems and everybody was going, oh my God, am I going to get back? Where am I going? So we got our fantastic sort of travel correspondent. He works at the Independent and here, the legend that is Simon Calder, who's disappointed me recently, ladies and gentlemen, because whenever I've thrown to him, he's been not in an exotic location or hanging off the back of a boat or a train, but sat in a studio. But different this morning. We are going to go live to Simon Calder's bedroom. I've no idea where. Morning, Simone. How are you?
Yes, I'm in Delhi in India, the beautiful capital of that great country. But I've been watching what's been going on, and I have successfully, in the past few hours, flown on an Airbus A320. Jeremy, that was the plane type that actually was very, very suddenly on Friday evening, they put out an airworthiness directive saying you've got to fix these planes. Cosmic rays are coming and they could be dangerous. But actually, things have gone pretty well in the past few minutes. Airbus has said, you know, we told you there are about 6,000 planes on Friday and they all needed to be fixed. Well, we're down to the last 100 and actually there hasn't been very much disruption at all. There certainly was if you were in Australia, and that's because the news broke at the start of operations in Australia, whereas in the UK and Europe it happened sort of Friday night and everybody could fix stuff overnight. In Australia, Jetstar cancelled 90% planes, and Air New Zealand, for a time on Saturday morning, actually grounded their entire A320 fleet. But we're now down just to a handful, really. And as far as I can see, hasn't affected a single service on British Airways, on EasyJet or on Wizz Air.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Airbus, panic, 6,000, it's 100. They could almost be run by Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. So I'm not going to ask why you're in Delhi in a rather shabby room. I can see all the sheets everywhere. Manchester, this is an extraordinary story, Calder. Manchester commuter train to London is going to run for 5 months without any passengers. More bloody incompetence. Why?
OK, long story. Now, this is the 7 o'clock express from Manchester. Only stops at Stockport to pick up passengers, then it's non-stop all the way to London. Gets in 1 minute to 9, the only train of the day which covers the 184 miles in under 2 hours. Not doing that today. It's just south of Stoke and it's running 15 minutes late. I've just checked. But normally it's very popular, and you will find that passengers will happily, well, maybe not, maybe their companies will pay £193 for the one-way fare. Now, it's been running on a path, that's the railway equivalent of airline slots. It's been running on a path that is supposed to be a, quote, fire break. And that means when things go wrong on the very, very heavily used West Coast main line, and things do go wrong, Jeremy, I know I'm going to surprise you with that, with Britain's Railways, they need to build in some extra time. And so they basically just said, look, from December, when the new timetable kicks in, we've got to make space for extra trains which are coming down from Stirling to London Euston, and therefore this one is going possibly to be in the way of other trains.
Well, don't run it then. I haven't got long. Don't run it. Why are you running it without any passengers? Not you.
Because that train and the people on it, the staff, have to be in London for later in the morning to go up to Glasgow. So it's a very, very complicated system. I've said, look, why on earth don't you just say, yeah, we're going to carry passengers. It might take an extra hour. You won't get any compensation, but give it a go.
Can I just say that of all the times you've spoken, I never thought I'd find you in a seedy bedroom in Delhi. Next time we have you on, Calder, I want you hanging off the back of a boat. You're an absolute legend. We appreciate it. It's enormously great. It's not answering my was there. It's almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Breakfast Morning Glory, where the nation comes to speak. We're on till 10. We'll kick off with Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun, on the day that every newspaper is saying not only does the nation think Rachel Reeves is a liar, not only do the newspapers report it, but our own cabinet are now briefing in the Times that our Chancellor has lied. Nigel Farage later telling us he thinks she should be brought to task. It's 8 o'clock. Good morning.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome to the 1st of December. We're live across the UK on the station Talk, home of common sense and where the nation comes to have its say on the news of the day. It's all going on. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, who came onto an emergency morning message to us all several weeks ago saying there's a massive black hole left by the Tories. We're in dire need. I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to raise taxes simply to cover that black hole. It now transpires, allegedly, that was, well, in best terms, BS, really. She was about $5 billion in credit. Was she hiding the truth? It turns out that raising taxes was simply to pay to increase benefits. I'll make the point again at 8 o'clock. Totally stand for and always will the genuine who deserve benefits, whatever those benefits are. But we need to have the discussion in this country that the system is being played both by migrants and the feckless and lazy. Now just have 7 kids and we'll pay for it. No, no, no. You cannot tell your electorate who go to work, live within the confines of the law, pay for their kids and do everything right. The alarm clock brigade, as I call them, right? Alarm clock Britain, people who go to work. Just tell them it's easier to sit at home. That is no way to run a country. Your response, as ever, has been amazing. Rachel Reeves yesterday appeared with the amazing Trevor Phillips on Sky, who said, "Are you a liar?" I'm going to play you this clip. Tell me if you believe her. Have a listen, have a watch.
I just asked you, did you lie? And I have to say, the answer I was looking for was no. And
well, no.
I didn't hear the word no.
But you also asked about welfare in that question.
No, I just asked you, did you lie?
Of course I didn't.
Good, OK. By the way, was the Prime Minister informed through all of this process?
Yes.
And he was right there with you on it all?
Yes, of course.
Decisions you made, what you said on November the 4th?
Yes, we are a partnership.
We are a partnership, which means that he presumably is mired in this mess already. In fact, so switched off is Keir Starmer, he's going to go out today and defend her. And also, just to completely confuse you, having raised taxes to give more benefits, Keir Starmer in his speech today is going to, and I quote, talk about how increased benefit shouldn't happen and they should be cut because people are taking advantage. Are you confused? Because I am. I tell you somebody who isn't, the political editor of The Sun, who doesn't owe me his career because he's a top man. Jack Elsom, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy, although I am just as confused as most people, I think, about the overall handling of this budget, because it does seem one mighty bodge job, and it'd be interesting to see what Keir Starmer has to say in about an hour's time, I think. It's
extraordinary, Matt. I was away last week with our kid playing in a big golf tournament in Spain, and I'm watching this from afar thinking, actually, I'm not very good at the technicalities of a budget. And all I took from it was, you are essentially saying to the British people, who, as I've said already in this hour, go to work, pay taxes, get up, look after their kids, never break a law and ask for jack, I like the pun, to actually... Well, that's a bad thing. What a good thing is to stay at home, have more children. If your kid's got ADHD or anything, still keep claiming, we'll still give you. It is an absolute, in my humble opinion, reach out by a government who are desperately knowing that they are losing the British public. What's this? To get the feckless to vote for them. It's unbelievable to me, Jack. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and when she stood up at the dispatch box, and she's been repeating it all weekend, she says, I'm asking more people to contribute. Everyone has to do their bit. My readers, your viewers, millions of voters will go, hang on a minute, I already do my bit. I get up in the morning and I go to work and I do a hard day's graft. Meanwhile, there are also millions of people out there that are not doing their bit. So rather than rinsing the productive part of the economy, how about we actually look at I think it's about 5.6 million people on some kind of out-of-work benefit. Now, as you said, there'll be people out there who will genuinely need some sort of safety net. There was a caller in to talk last week, I think he went viral saying this, but there are lots of people who will not. And since COVID especially, the amount of people claiming personal independence payments has just skyrocketed. But Rachel Reeves, in her budget last week, barely mentioned the subject of welfare. And I think many people thought it was the elephant in the room because it just was totally left untouched. Now, it seems that Keir Starmer, after a pretty torrid backlash to this budget last week is now being panicked into coming out and saying, oh, no, actually, we are going to be doing something about the welfare bill. And let's see what he says in about an hour and a half's time, because it better be good to appease, I think, the anger out there in the country.
There's real anger. And I remember when he was standing to be Prime Minister, he droned on about a lot, no tax rises, which turned out to be an absolute lie. He lied to the farmers and the pensioners and waspy women. But he kept saying, politics in the last few years has been about the individual. I'm going to put country before party. I think it will be an absolutely fair point to make that in most people's opinion, most of what these two are now doing is to shore up their own position. They're incapable of passing anything in their manifesto because they're backbenchers. I mean, you talked about welfare then. He tried to knock just a measly $5 billion. We all know that disaster a few months ago, and ended up backtracking. He'll backtrack on this. He is absolutely at the mercy, and I said it during the election, and I remember you saying, you're right, Jez, he promised too much to too many different people, and he spends his entire time, I now think, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, to not upset Mary or the comrade at the U-Party. Nightmare. And we're almost hamstrung. And financially, and when I watch to talk about, like, oh, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, I've a question for you. You're a political, you're switched on. How long before the markets go, this woman's incompetent, she should go as well? The markets, the people that call the shots.
Well, I think to be fair, if Rachel Reeves has three audience, Labour MPs, the markets and voters, I think last week's budget was a budget for Labour MPs and markets. The markets didn't seem to have an adverse reaction because she's left herself with £20 billion of headroom and she's hiked up taxes on working people. Now, the markets don't really care about what the average Joe is having to pay in income tax, as long as they believe that the government can pay off its debt. So they actually don't mind about big tax rises on working people. But for the voters out there that put their trust in Labour at the last election and took them at face value when they said, we are not going to raise taxes on working people, it's them who I fear about. And that is the tide which is going to be turning. You are totally right, I think, that the budget was one for political survival. They know that they are, Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister on record, Rachel Reeves the most unpopular Chancellor on record. Not just with voters, but before the budget, Labour MPs were really starting to get angry because all of the wish list and the left-wing policies which they wanted put forward, at the start Keir Starmer seemed to be resisting them. Now, he is totally buckled. He knows that May is going to be an incredibly tough time in the local elections, probably get booted out of power in Wales, might fail to take Scotland, which they looked like they were going to do a few years ago. And so they know that they are under a lot of pressure politically. So last week's budget was definitely one for the parliamentary Labour Party. But as we've already seen, they're never going to be happy. They're never going to give Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer a thumbs up. Even when they tried to water down the Employment Rights Bill last week, we saw MPs come out of the woodwork again and say, this isn't good enough. The problem is, I think now, is because they've spent so much political capital marching their MPs up the hill with things like winter fuel and benefits or whatever, it just seems that they have such little bandwidth to be able to operate it now, and they are just focusing at the 400 or so Labour MPs rather than turning to the country who actually do want restrained welfare spending. They want their taxes to go down. But at the moment, it seems that they are just tunnel vision focused on appeasing the markets on the one hand, fair enough, but also Labour MPs. And that is a dangerous strategy because you leave the voters in the lurch.
Well, it's very interesting what you said. John in Nottingham texting whilst you were talking, and he is, to me, symptomatic of what the people of this country are at. Working people, the alarm clock group, all the people who are saying, why do I live my life correctly? He says, morning, Jez. If the parents of poor kids use their benefits to feed and clothe their children born into poverty, I'd be happy. Instead, they buy scratch cards, alcohol, tobacco and betting slips. There is no excuse to give away my hard-earned money, the tax that I pay, to people who are taking advantage. We've got some breaking news for you as well, Jack, you can respond to. This is KPMG. Leading economists have just warned that Rachel Reeves' stealth tax rage will damage growth next year. Damage growth. This is a government that was elected to say growth, working people. So they've raised taxes on working people, that have increased benefits on people who don't work, and they have, and I don't think we can ever get enough of this, they've absolutely destroyed small and medium-sized businesses by increasing NI. We know that. Workers' rights, it'll all be watered down. The truth is, and even you called me cynical a year ago, I remember it, I've got it on tape, so don't tell me you didn't. I'm old enough to remember that when push comes to shove, what happens with the Labour Party is they promise too much to too many different people, and in the end, we will be skint. That is not me condoning anything that the Tories said, but I said earlier, I watched something over the weekend that Sunak said, and listen, I had no confidence in him. He said, I'm telling you now, even if you boot us from office and vote for Keir Starmer, the average Briton, anybody over 18 will be charged £2,000 plus more under this government. Rishi Sunak was spot on, wasn't he?
Well, that clip that's been resurfacing definitely has come back to bite Keir Starmer. And in fact, it's not just that clip, but there have been absolute myriad of footage from the election and even just after where they said Labour will not have to raise your taxes. We will not raise it on working people. They said that their plans would require £8 billion of tax rises. Across Rachel Reeves' first two budgets, there has been £66 billion worth of tax rises. Now, how they can justify that, I think, is beyond belief. But the fact that they are almost sort of resorting to verbal gymnastics and contortions and say, well, actually, if you read the small print of the budget, then you'd realise that we were only talking about the headline rates of these income tax, VAT and national insurance, not these stealth taxes, which are going to drag 1 million more people into the higher rate. And even then, we had the headline rate of national insurance on employers going up, which clearly is going to have a big effect on workers. And also, as you say, hammer the growth prospects. There was a time where Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' flagship priority or mission, as they called them quite tediously, was the highest sustained growth in the G7. The highest sustained growth in the G7, and then asked by journalists, well, what if you don't manage to get the highest sustained growth in the G7? They said, don't be so defeatist. Well, where are we now? You know, growth has been downgraded by the Office of Budget Responsibility. It's not bailing out the Chancellor and Keir Starmer in the way they said it would, negate the need for any sort of tax rises or spending cuts. They've dodged spending cuts. They're not going to put borrowing up, you know, which is good. But we're left with tax rises, £30 billion of them last Wednesday. And so I think that people that voted for Labour at the last election will rightly be feeling a bit cheesed off over the last few days, because they said one thing. They were adamant they were going to cut the welfare bill and welfare spending. They were adamant they weren't going to put up taxes on working people. And in the last few days, we seem to have the complete opposite.
Couldn't agree more. Always great to have you on, my friend. Busy man. Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun. So much response. Very quickly, Stuart Brown. Good morning, Jez. It's so obvious now that Rachel Reeves has lied to the British public and thought she could trick us into being duped out of more money so that Labour and their cronies can give their voters, or give people they want to vote for them, the opportunity. Rob says Rachel Thieves doesn't seem worried about the children of working people she is pushing into poverty by upping their taxes. Let's just repeat very quickly what Jack Elsom just said. They promised £8 billion worth of tax increases. Actually, £66 billion. £66 billion. So what's that? 8 times what they promised. Let's go to the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, frontbench Tory, top man as well. Alex Burghardt, good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Morning. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. It is extraordinary to me that even now, on the front of the Times, we're hearing that cabinet ministers are now briefing to newspapers against their own Chancellor. Today, Keir Starmer's going to come out and defend her, whilst also apparently and weirdly saying, I want benefit cuts, because it was only last week he was spending more. These two, who are inextricably linked at the hip, are in major trouble, aren't they, Alex?
Yeah. We've got to hope that the ship is sinking, because these two are really, really floundering on the rocks now. What we saw last week, I think, was quite extraordinary. Not only did we have a second disastrous budget in a row, budget that's going to make your listeners and viewers much worse off, we also found out that the Chancellor lied to the country in the run-up to the budget, saying that she had a big black hole and the only thing that she was going to be able to do to fill it was to break her manifesto promises and raise taxes. And it turns out, actually, there wasn't a black hole at all. What she really wanted to do was raise taxes so she could spend more on welfare in order to keep the Labour backbench happy. And so now, in order to, what's really happening below all this is, in order to try and save her political skin, she has put up taxes on tens of millions of people. It's just totally unacceptable.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? And by the way, fair play to you. You must love your job, standing there in 50-mile-an-hour winds in the middle of a field on a Monday morning. The thing is, and I made the point just now, Alex, that they talked about growth and working people and all these things, and seemingly almost everything this government has done seems to be to the detriment. But if you step back and you go, Labour has always attacked who they see as the aspirational and the wealthy. This isn't. This is working men and women. This is the alarm clock Britons who do it every single day. And I was abroad last week with my kid, and I just remember thinking, you are sending a message to hard-working people that you might as well sit on your backside and shell out a few more kids. And that is so, so dangerous, isn't it?
So dangerous. Yeah, exactly. You're saying, like, what's the point? And you kind of hear it from my constituents in Essex all the time. It's like, well, what's the point? Why should I? A lot of people in my constituency run businesses, and they're seeing their profit margin squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And one very good business said to me over the weekend, said, without a profit margin, you're just a busy fool. Right, and that's how they feel that the Chancellor is making them. Massive taxes on businesses, huge regulation, and now taxes on working people as well, and that money going straight into benefits when we should be building a benefit system that's getting people into work, because that's what's good for the economy, right? What you want to have, what the Conservatives have set out, is a plan to reduce public spending so that we can reduce the deficit and we can reduce people's taxes, and we'll get growth, right? It's not rocket science, it's very straightforward, just requires some tough choices, and we're the ones prepared to make it. But this lot aren't going to do that. We're going to have more of the same, because they don't understand where growth comes from. Without the private sector, without people who work hard, there is no growth, there won't be any public services, we will go bust.
No, I couldn't agree more. A couple of things very quickly. We've got Nigel Farage on the show after 9:30. He's come out today and said that Reeves must face a sleaze probe by the ethics advisor to the Prime Minister over her lies. Did the Tory party agree with him?
Yeah, but it goes much further than that. What the Conservatives have written to the FCA this morning, over the weekend, the FCA saying that the financial regulator needs to investigate the Chancellor. You'll have seen some people on social media over the weekend, very senior people in the city, saying if a private company had been involved in this sort of deceit and manipulation, the executives would be fired and they would potentially face criminal prosecution. That's how serious this is. So, forget the ethics advisor in Parliament. This is something much, much bigger, and that's why we're asking the FCA to step in. We've also, I wrote to Keir Starmer last night saying you've got to send your Chancellor to the House of Commons tomorrow morning so that she can answer questions about what she's done. This is totally unacceptable. A lot of information's come to light since she gave the budget on Wednesday. It's time that she comes into the mother of all parliaments and faces the music.
Don't think she will, because he's inextricably linked. And on a day where it doesn't really get any better for Starmer, I just wanted to get your response to the breaking news 2 hours ago. Even I nearly fell off my chair. Keir Starmer employed a criminal as the Transport Secretary. That went wrong. But perhaps the highest accolade I could possibly give this man is that the former anti-corruption minister, ladies and gentlemen, Tulip Siddiq, former anti-corruption minister, created by her friend Keir Starmer, has overnight been sentenced to 2 years imprisonment in Bangladesh on charges of corruption, Alex Bogart. You could not make this stuff up, pal, could you?
That's right. I mean, if we were writing an episode of The Thick of It and we put this in, the editors would say no one's going to buy that, scrap it. I know. So it's, but it's there is just sleaze after sleaze and scandal after scandal, deceit after deceit, and epic incompetence with this lot. And and I'm afraid it's going to last as long as they do.
It's really good to have you on, my friend. Haven't had you on before. Look forward to speaking many times. Excellent. Thank you very much. Alex Burghardt, Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster there, stood outside. Such an assuming job. This is interesting. I think is it Selva from Leytonstone? Jez, Keir Starmer did say country first when he took office, but let's be fair to him. He didn't say which country, did he? He probably wasn't talking about us. He was probably talking about Mauritius, who got the Chagos Islands. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Jeremy. Michelle here from Newcastle. There is so much I want to see, but to be perfectly honest, I'm so tired of it all. It's an absolute outrage what this Labour Party is doing to this country. So I have one question. Do you think it's time His Majesty the King exercised his royal privilege to dissolve Parliament so that we can go back to the polls and vote for a party that actually wants to work for the British public? Thanks, Jeremy. Great show.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Welcome. It's 8:25 with Talks, where the nation comes to have its say on the news of the day. You're waking up to the fact that, well, let's be honest, it's a day that ends in Y, and Rachel Thieves, Richard III, and Keir Starmer, the farmer Harmer and Granny Harmer, are in trouble again. She, of course, delivering that budget last week when I was away. Basically, she talked about, well, we're skinned, we've got a black hole. That turned out to be lies. Everybody's coming for her today. Nigel Farage, he says that she should face a sleaze probe from the ethics advisor. Nigel with us after 9:30 on Talk this morning. Her own cabinet front of the Times are now saying you misled us. So a colleagues are saying she's lying. The press is saying she's lying. But Keir Starmer, in true Keir Starmer style, is going to come out this morning and support Rachel Reeves and also say, I know we raised benefits last week to 16 billion, which is why we raised taxes, but actually I think they should be lowered. Nobody's quite sure what's going on. I mean, it's a disaster. On top of all of which, if you are waking up, it's brilliant, or doing whatever. The other great news, of course, is that the Your Party conference, we're going to make it a little bit light-hearted, because let's be perfectly honest, it's all a bit serious. This is the party set up by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Fruit and Nuts Sultana. They had their first ever conference on Sunday in Liverpool. And what a bloody shambles that was. They've decided to call it Your Party. It's not my party, sure, but never mind. Anyway, this is an idea. If you were thinking that this was an answer politically, this is perhaps something that might change your mind. This is one of the major speakers. Have a listen, have a watch.
Hello, my name's Mick Bailey Gibson and I'm a non-binary person. Give it up for the trans people, everybody! Thank you, comrades. And it is an honour and a privilege to be stood speaking on this podium today. The reason I am saying yes to socialism in this political statement is because as a trans comrade, as a disabled comrade, as a mad comrade and a neurodivergent comrade.
Mad comrade. Very much a debate going on about, you know, benefits and you know, people and the increase. And I just want to say here at Talk, we welcome all views. And mine is that I am really happy, as I've said all morning, to pay my taxes to help people who genuinely deserve benefits. But we can't not have the debate about the people who are screwing the system and gaming the system. And I'll tell you why we can't. Because it's costing $100 billion a year and genuine people are missing out. Morning, Debbie.
Hi, Jeremy. It's Debbie from Bedford. I have a daughter who has ADHD, only recently diagnosed. She's 31, has an eating disorder, has been diagnosed with autism. She's also been diagnosed with POTS, which is where your heart races, etc. She's bought a shared ownership into her house to get on the housing ladder. She works full-time, and it makes me mad that she's being taxed when she's got so many illnesses, but she cracks on, works frigging hard. I'm proud of both my daughters. They left school. One didn't want to do uni or anything. As long as she got a job, I was happy. She's been there since she was 16. And now she's having to pay more frigging tax. It really pees me off. It really does. 100% this government need to go. They're all a bunch of frigging liars.
What I love in all of that is we had 4 frigs. Now, 8:30 in the morning, we'll say a very good morning to Mark Littlewood, former director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, now director of Popular Conservatism, live on the Talk Breakfast Show. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well. Just about managing in socialist Britain, Jeremy. Just about getting by. Good to be with you.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure why we're working. Why? I was away last week, and I keep repeating this, Mark, right? The message from this government, which I think is so dangerous, whatever your political persuasion, is that going to work, grafting for your family, paying your tax, not breaking the law, even if you're not getting any benefits in terms of, I'm talking not benefits, you don't go on holiday, you don't go out, but you're just doing the right thing. Sod that. It's much better to do nothing and shell out kids. I think it is such a dangerous message that this budget has spent. And today, Starmer's going to come out and defend her. She has to go, doesn't she, Rachel Reeves?
Yes, I would have thought so, Jeremy, for a multitude of reasons. And you say it's a dangerous message. Well, I completely agree with you, but it's also a message that is getting across, right? More millionaires are leaving Britain than any country in the world other than China. And if we were to look at the latest net immigration statistics, it looks like the numbers are down, but that's because so many bright young people are leaving. So if Britain was a business, we're basically importing vast numbers of people who are tax eaters, who by and large are, a burden on the welfare system in the Exchequer. And we are exporting not just people who have made a decent wedge of cash and have decided they're going to retire elsewhere to make sure Rachel Reeves can't get her hands on their money, but also bright young things who have decided that their career prospects are much better in, say, Dubai or America or Singapore or even some other European countries than staying in the UK. All in all, it's a disaster. So it's not just the overall competence of the economic policy. I mean, we were told they would be laser focused on growth. Well, we're heading in exactly the opposite direction. I do think that Rachel Reeves, to put it at its mildest, has been economical with the truth.
Very
and that's
good.
a very, very serious charge indeed, because what the Chancellor says has enormous implications for how markets move. And if you're not telling the unalloyed truth, you are manipulating those markets. Pretty disgraceful state of affairs, really.
Interesting. Nigel Farage is on an hour, says that Reeves must face a sleaze probe in the House of Commons. Alex Burkhardt, the shadow Chancellor Duchy of Lancaster, who was just on, says the Tories have written to the FCA, the regulatory body, today, saying, do you know what, actually, if this was a business, this woman would be dragged to explain her situation. We've got ministers front of the Times literally now briefing newspapers saying that they were lied to. Everybody's taking a position, and yet Starmer, the most incompetent Prime Minister, it says, ever, is going to come out this morning and defend her. Have these two got a death wish, or are they just literally so joined by the hip that there's no way out of this mess? Because I think so many people will look at this and just go, here's a woman and a man who are clearly out of their depth.
Yes, I think that's right. And Jeremy, it's even worse than you say. The Prime Minister's not just coming out to defend her. He's coming out to give a message which was the exact opposite of what last week's budget delivered. We're going to be told the welfare system doesn't work and needs colossal reform. So why last Wednesday did the government shuffle and shovel a whole ton of money away from the productive side of the economy into the welfare state? So it's all over the place. I mean, it speaks of complete chaos. I mean, you look at this government and you think the left hand doesn't know what the extreme left hand is doing, basically.
I like that. And I think also that thing I said earlier, I don't know if you were listening, was that, you know, they made a big thing, didn't they, before they came to power, about growth and working people and you know and doing the right thing and putting the country before party. There is no doubt that budget, there is no doubt today's announcement about increasing or decreasing the welfare spend as against last week is nothing more than shoring up their position, I would suggest, amongst their own backbench MPs. So we've now got a Prime Minister and Chancellor who are hamstrung and are at the ordering, if you like, of the left-wing mob. That's the reality of where we're at, isn't it?
Seems no doubt about that based on their behaviour, does it? I mean, the Labour Party is really no longer the workers' party. It is the party of people who are benefits claimants and in the public sector. That's where they've got to.
Yeah.
And so they are indulging that client vote, if you like, desperately trying to cling on to some sort of level of support as their opinion poll ratings tank. And as they say, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you can be guaranteed of Paul's vote. Well, that seems to be more or less what they're doing, really. And this laser focused on growth stuff has turned out to be a complete and utter nonsense. If you want to get growth into the economy, there's a pretty straightforward, tried and tested way of doing it. You try and get government spending under control, not up. You try and get the tax burden down, especially where incentives matter, and you try to deregulate. That is the pathway to try and inject some growth into the economy. And they're doing the exact opposite. They're sort of engaged in some sort of rain dance that they sort of think if they just say growth enough and look to the heavens, growth will magically appear. And I think we've just seen this morning, KPMG have said they think that this budget is going to dampen growth yet again. And Jeremy, that puts you in a death spiral, right? Because if growth dampens, then your tax revenues go down. And I think we're going to be in Groundhog Day at the next budget, quite probably with a new Chancellor. They'll be coming back for even more because tax receipts will be disappointing because so many people would have downed tools or even left the country, and they'll have to come yet again. And you were mentioning earlier, Jeremy, that the total amount they put up tax by, 66 billion. Well, that just sounds like a huge number, but let's put that into some sort of context. That is on average £2,300 for each and every household
Which
in
is
Britain.
exactly what Rishi Sunak said in that clip that's resurfaced.
Right.
Not that I was a Rishi Sunak fan in the end, but he said it. And I remember saying during the election campaign, Mark, that if you go back in history, you will find out when push comes to shove that the Labour Party only ever do one thing, which is spend more than is put more out than they bring in, they overspend and we end up skint. And that is where we are. I would go further and say she'll end up, or whoever it is, begging the IMF to do it. We will be exactly where we were in '79 when Thatcher came in. That's not condoning anything the ridiculous Tories did at an end, but I find myself sitting here thinking, come on, I want the markets to spook and get rid of her like Liz Truss, but that's probably just wishful thinking. Mark, you're very kind. We really appreciate you. Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism UK, live and exclusive on Talk's Breakfast Show. What is it, 24 minutes to 9 o'clock? Morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Daniel from Epsom here. I can't wait for reform to get into power, for us to get common decency back, law and order, all the 1.2 or 1.5 illegals removed, mass deportations. We need to get this country back on track. And if everyone I know, my whole family, we're all going to vote reform. The British natives have had enough of coming last in Britain.
Thank you, Daniel Epsom. Keep those calls coming. 0344 499 1000 for those voice notes. Text 87222. Next, this is really interesting. The story that Calamity Lammy wants to scrap jury trials. We've always believed, have we not, as a nation, that a jury is a safeguard to a judge who would have a personal opinion. Calamity Lammy says, I can get rid of the backlog by getting rid of juries. Next, on this show, Britain's top KC. This man, OK, Michael Mansfield, led the inquest into the deaths of Dirty Fayed and Princess Diana. He led the inquest into the death of Jill Dando, represented the bloody Sunday victims' families and also the families of the Lockerbie bombings. This man is, quite simply, Britain's top barrister. He's next on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 9 on Talk, the home of free speech where the nation comes to speak. 0344 499 1000, text 287 222. Very quickly, Tim Rowe, Jeremy said the Chancellor lied about the black hole they inherited, but what has not been said is that they also lied to their own backbenchers. Imagine if those backbenchers knew there was a surplus of $4+ billion. What would they have demanded if they'd known? It is clear they will not be satisfied or very happy with the dubious duo. None of us are. Very interesting. Keep those calls coming. Now, front page of the Daily Telegraph today, overhauling jury trials will lead to more free speech convictions. David Lammy, or Calamity Lammy, as he's known's idea of dealing with an 80,000 case backlog in the courts in Britain, has decided that scrapping jury trials and just having a judge would be the answer. We're delighted to be joined by Britain's top barrister, Michael Mansfield, KC. Michael, a very good morning.
Good morning.
What is your take overall on David Lammy's suggestion that dealing with this backlog, it would be best to get rid of juries? Because, listen, you know far more than me, but I always thought 12 men and women off the streets, if you like, were the safeguard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was, and in fact still is, the envy of the world. And I just want to remind viewers that prime ministers in the past, including Tony Blair, actually took the jury trial model around the world and demonstrated how it works and why it works. So I think that, and Lammy himself said during coronavirus, when there was a problem with getting the justice system to keep going because of the contact and all the rest of it, he then said very categorically that getting rid of juries at that time was a bad idea. And I think I think one of the things that hasn't really been broadcast is this, and that is that there's no evidence that's been produced to demonstrate that having a trial without a jury, whether it's just one judge or a judge and two magistrates, which was Leveson's proposal, there is no evidence at all that that is going to be solving the problem. Where is the evidence that that is quicker? Where is the evidence that the backlog will be cleared? None at all. This is an assumption built on panic stations, when in fact what we're doing is throwing out one of the basic values of our democratic society, and that is you're tried by 12 peers. And frankly, whenever I practiced for a long time, over 50 years, almost without exception, very, very rare, people would prefer to be judged by their own people, in other words, peers, the community, than a professional court and professional judges.
And I guess as well, Michael, you could add to that, and you did your job eminently for, as you said, for 50 years, but judges have not had the best, I suspect. They're not the most popular at the moment for reasons we can go into. We can talk about the statute book, we can talk about some lawyers have made, some judges have made sort of decisions that a lot of people disagree with. But there has to be a safety net. And if you take a cross-section of your demographic, whatever those people are, wherever they're from in the United Kingdom, and they judge that person, common sense presumably prevails. But you make the point that this is almost panic stations by this government. I mean, Lammy, I don't know. I mean, they call him Calamity Lammy. He doesn't seem to know what side of bed to get out of, but I don't want to make it personal. I mean, surely the way to deal with this is to either have more courts or build more prisons so you can put people away, or make sentencing last a bit longer.
Jeremy, that's an interesting point, because the other point that actually the bar makes, the Criminal Bar Association and the Bar Council made this point, and the Law Society, so all the professional organisations have been saying strongly, what's the problem? We've got the courts already. They're built. In fact, during coronavirus, 6 Nightingale courts, massive, were built. There's one in Croydon in London. So they're standing, most of them, not entirely empty, but every court building you go in, there are 3 or 4 courts within the building empty. And so what is needed is investment into the system, not get away with, throw away the valuable element of the system, is to, and this is a story that applies to lots of other areas, NHS and so on, education and so on. In other words, update some of the buildings, certainly, but actually populate the courts that are already there with judges, because they have not got enough judges to fill the courts. So
I would respectfully suggest, do you remember, and I don't want this to be political, but it has to be, do you remember after the Southport riots, and listen, I thought that Starmer's response, I didn't like the everybody who did it was far right, but within 24 hours, Michael, live on television, hundreds of people were arrested, hundreds of people were in court being judged. Starmer had police on the street, judges in the courts, and apparently for a criminal system that has no people, nowhere to put them, they were all put in jail. I'm so with you. We need more judges, we need more prison cells, and I'd love to ask your opinion on this, which is nothing to do with it, but I'd love to ask you this. Why do we have a system in this country which says you've committed a crime, I'm giving you 5 years, now you only have to serve 2.5, and this bunch of people who are in charge want to make it even less? Why don't we say to people who've committed a crime that's 5 years, you're going to serve the 5 years?
Well, this is a different debate.
I know, but I thought I'd drop it in.
I have very different views about the use of prison and so on, other than for people who need to be locked up for their own protection and for our protection. However, you're on a point which I'm very anxious about, and that is, I worry that what governments do is that when juries, ordinary people, come up with decisions that governments do not like, this idea of getting rid of juries is an ancient one, because they always blame the juries as a form of opposition. And I give you an example, and no doubt you've got other ones on the other side of the political spectrum, but hundreds of people, are demonstrating against a particular law that's been brought in prescribing Palestine action. And that is going through the courts at the moment. But these are not young people, thugs. They're often people in my bracket, they're elderly in their 70s and 80s who are making a point about the Middle East and Gaza and so on. And it's a perfectly valid point. They're being detained, they're being arrested. Where are they going to put all these people if they're convicted? And of course, they're not going to get the chance to get, and of course, they'll take juries away from the ability to pass judgment. So where are you going to put all these hundreds of people? They're already at bursting point. I mean, the prisons are overcrowded. We all know that. It's been going on for the whole of my career, overcrowded prisons. And again...
Why don't we build more then, Michael? Why don't we build more prisons?
Well, that is one point. And of course, they will say, well, we're doing one here and one there and so on. But... you know, prison and prison occupancy, we've got the highest prison occupancy in Europe per capita. This is ridiculous, because it isn't the answer to all ills. And you've got to start locking up 80-year-olds because they've been demonstrating in the way that they think that, and rightly in my view anyway, in terms of what's been happening in the Middle East. They have the right to peacefully demonstrate, and that's basically what they're doing. And yet they're being detained. So I think that...
Well, Lucy Connolly got 30 months for some words which I would never condone, but surely that could have been dealt with by making her do some community service in the local Muslim community, couldn't it?
Yeah, quite agree.
But anyway, back to it, because I could talk to you all day, and I mean that. Utterly fascinating to have you. Juries are the lifeblood of balance, are they not?
Yeah, if you think about it, actually, if you look at our system as a whole of governance, juries and jury service is the most democratic aspect of what we have. It's more effective than, in my view, Parliament.
Well, I don't
more
think
representative than Parliament.
I don't think anybody would disagree. Will you come on again? I've loved it. It hasn't cost me 800 quid, which is usually what you charge for 10 minutes, isn't it, to be fair?
Not anymore.
Great to have you on. Michael Mansfield, Britain's top barrister, the man who led the inquest into the deaths of Dodi, fired Diana, Jill Dando, the Bloody Sunday victims. Great to have him on Morning Glory. What is it, 10 to 9? We're live across the United Kingdom. Sport on the way, and literally so many text messages. Jez, nothing will happen to Reeves or Starmer. Most of the liberal left media protect them. If that was me or you doing what they are doing, we will be sacked or given a prison sentence. This government and most of the MPs in Parliament to blame, as this country is on its backside. Only reform is, says Chris, the answer. Fingers crossed. Nigel Farage here after 9:30. It is 10 to 9.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Christian, top producer, just said something, and he said I need to keep you going. That is not what you should say to me, sir. Let's say good morning to Brian on the jury situation. Go, Bree.
Morning, JK. Brian from South End. Just going on this, the court thing, the backlog of court cases. You know, I've been thinking myself, you know, I had to sort of get round it and ease the burden. Why don't they filter them out, the court cases? Have a look at all the backlogs, filter out. Then look at the ones that are charged and already in prison. They can wait. So you could take that section of the court cases and put them on hold right to the back. They're not important. And then start using the courts all around the country and then having them sit 7 days a week and get the judges working. You know, I'm sure this will take quite a lot of the backlog out. It's a simple solution. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But, you know, surely they've got to look at things like this.
I do indeed agree with you. Rob, this is the reaction to Calamity Lammy, who believes that getting rid of an 80,000 court backlog is to just get rid of juries and allow judges to get them done quicker, which means that, if you like, the safety net of the jury's gone. Quickly from Rob, regarding jury trials, I've done jury service twice, and I must confess of the cases I sat on, 3 were very minor slam-dunk shoplifting trials. Yeah, but that was a while ago. You just don't you get a medal now for shoplifting? If they want to speed up justice and deal with the backlog, surely there must be a mechanism to prevent frivolous cases clogging up the Crown Court. Yeah, see that side as well. It's 5 to 9. Can you push the button, Marky, please? Thanks.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
We say a very good morning to Jack Rosser. He's the sports reporter, or look at him, looking smart this morning from The Sun. How are you, boy?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm all right, not very happy West Ham fan. Can I just say, Liverpool, who have had an incredibly... Don't smile, who do you support?
Southampton, so not loads to smile about, but I do have to watch a lot of West Ham.
Yeah, Liverpool's floundering season took an upturn yesterday when they played West Ham. I'm going to say this to you because you're a football fan. One of the biggest legends of England, certainly of this football club that I've supported since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, Billy Bonds, yesterday passing. I cannot... I'd have put a picture of him in the dressing room and just said to them, that is why you need to... I thought they were awful yesterday, but there you go. Liverpool did them some good. Isak finally scores a goal.
Yeah, well, if you need somewhere to go and turn your form around, there's no better place than the London Stadium at the moment, is there? Wow. Welcome to West Ham. What do you need, Alexander? A goal? Yeah, we can sort that out for you.
He's not coming on again. I don't like this one. Crack on.
I've seen enough of West Ham to know they can do this for a lot of people. It was a big day for Arne Slot, really, because they lose there, and the sort of suggestions that he might have been under pressure really turn into, well, is he going to go now if they lose at West Ham? West Ham have picked up a bit, but have been really poor all season under both managers. So to go there, to make the decision to drop Salah as well, or rest him as he would have put it, is a big call, and for that to pay off as well, to see Isak obviously get his goal and pick up what's been a dreadful start after an enormous summer move. Florian Wirtz playing well as well. I think it would have just been a huge sigh of relief for everyone connected with Liverpool as they were leaving.
Completely agree. The big game yesterday at Chelsea-Arsenal, I watched it on Sky. I just got back and I thought it was brilliant. Chelsea remind me a little bit. This will go down like a lead balloon with the wife, who's a Chelsea fan. Getting better. Caicedo, ridiculous red card. They'll walk away from Stamford Bridge yesterday happy with a point. Arsenal, full squad-ish. I think probably should have won that. But actually Chelsea, I thought, with 11 looked better and with 10 looked equal.
Yeah, no, they were fantastic, Chelsea. They've really sort of taken some strides on. They were so inconsistent at the start of the season, getting sent off week in, week out. We thought they'd gone past that, but I think Caicedo had been due one. He's had a few dodgy tackles that have gone unpunished at times this season and last season. It was a very reckless one. I think if he'd managed to keep his head, Chelsea would have gone on and won that. They were far better than Arsenal with 11 men. I think Arsenal probably they had one day fewer in terms of recovery from the Champions League in the week. They both had big games. They did look tired. Declan Rice and Caicedo was billed as the big one, and Declan Rice didn't really stake his claim in that battle, even though Caicedo was only on the pitch for half an hour. So I think Chelsea will be frustrated not to have got 3 points, given the way they played. Arsenal, they'll both have similar feelings, really, because you play against 10 men for that long, and you really should come away with it all and have a huge lead at the top.
Am I right or wrong in saying that it's now or never for Mikel Arteta? The squad looks the best squad. I genuinely mean that in the Premier League. He definitely has to win the Premier League this season, doesn't he?
I think they have to now. And I think the only thing is games like yesterday make you feel that if they're going to do it, they need a big gap.
Got a point, though, didn't they? Got a point, though.
They did get a point, which is big, but they need a big gap if they're going to be playing against 10 men for that long and not get across the line. If Man City start coming for them later in the year, then there could be a bit of trouble, but they're in an incredible position to finally go and do it.
Finally, how did Southampton get on?
We lost in the 97th minute to Millwall.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. It's the first time you hear a West Ham fan say, well done, Millwall. Jack Rosser from The Sun, thank you so much indeed. Almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. The news today, the main news, Rachel Reeves has lied to the British public. The papers say it. Nigel Farage, who's been on the show in the next hour, has reported her to the ethics advisor of the Prime Minister and said something needs to be done. KPMG have come out and said it's a disaster, growth's going down the toilet. But guess what? Starmer's going to come out this morning and actually support her, which proves that he is as barking mad as we all know. News at 9 and more of your calls and your voicemails on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Final hour of breakfast today. JK here on the home of free speech and where the nation comes to speak. Listen, whatever you want to talk about in the next hour ahead of Julia, 0344 499 1000. We can speak and do personally. We can do the voice notes, also the text 87222. Some breaking news in the last couple of minutes. Jonathan Gullis. There's a surprise. Former Conservative MP for Stoke-on-Trent North, a man who presents on this station, has today just announced he is defecting from the Conservative Party to join Reform UK. He said, Jonathan Gullis, I have watched a party I once believed in lose touch with the people it was meant to serve. Jonathan Gullis is now a member of Reform UK. Going to take stock for a couple of days as everybody reins in. Will be live and exclusive on Talk Breakfast on Wednesday morning. The former Conservative MP for Stoke-on-Trent North, Jonathan Gullis, who's presented on Talk, has today defected to Reform. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform, on this show ahead of 10 o'clock. What are you waking up to? What are you stopping work or coming off the night shift to? Well, Rachel Thieves and Keir Starmer joined at the hip and having a hard time. She, of course, last week raised taxes on working people, not the wealthy, not the millionaires, everybody, all the working people, because she said there was a black hole, because the Tories had messed up. Transpires there wasn't. She was building up finances so she could give 16 billion away in benefit cuts so that more and more people, not the genuine, we are on your side, but those who are gaming the system and sitting at home and shelling out babies with absolutely no intention of going to work, basically, those people will be better off. Every single newspaper is calling for her to be investigated. The FCA have been written to by the Tories. Nigel Farage says it's, the government ethics advisor should look into it. Ministers in the Cabinet briefing the Times as to the fact they've been lied to. And in all of that, what's Keir Starmer going to do this morning? Come out and support her and say, we do need to cut benefits, welfare benefits. I thought you raised them last week. Caroline, what do you make of it all?
Good morning, Jeremy. Amazing show, as always. Look, I want this woman and I want this Prime Minister. I want them prosecuted. I don't want them to end up resigning, go away with their big pensions and leave the country in absolute beyond dire straits. This is criminal. This is beyond insane. We are literally being ripped off on a level. They're not even hiding it anymore. It is disgusting. This country is as it stands, is just over. The world is laughing and the British people are in a dire straits. And why should we carry on like this? We've got to stand up and say no. Amazing show, Jeremy. Keep on going with your amazing work. Bye.
What a lovely lady. We didn't pay for that. 9 0344 499 1000. I do want to get some of these text messages in because I always feel like people spend time doing it. And we've got a couple of minutes. We're going to have Dan Hodges in a tick, Mail on Sunday guy. What makes me laugh, says Karen, about this new budget is that the Labour Party have squeezed the people that vote to give to the people that don't vote. Interesting. Yeah, you're right, actually. Hi, Jez. Reeves lied on her CV. Now she's lying to the entire country about our finances, says Don in Chelmsford. Are you surprised? Not really. Richard says, instead of scrapping juries, this is this discussion by Lammy, let's get rid of juries and just have judges. Idiot. Start at the root of the problem and stop the boats. Ignore the ECHR. Get rid of dodgy lawyers. All migration to stop with immediate effect. Then we won't have to build more prisons. Interesting. Morning, J-Cam. 61. Currently convalescing at home after an industrial accident. I want to get back to work and do my bit. However, when I look at things as they are, am I better off for me to ponce off the state? No, because I have self-respect and still believe in this busted country, which is driving me insane. We need a change. Mark's in Wakefield. Why did I say it like that? Good morning to Sarah. Jez, my 18-year-old daughter can't find a job because she doesn't have any experience. She might as well make a career out of having babies for a few years because she will end up getting more than I am earning. What does that say about our society? Warren is in Wigan. Morning, Wazza. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Not bad for a... Never mind, crack on. We haven't got long. What do you want to say?
I've just finished work. I work in the healthcare sector. I'm a registered nurse. And obviously we have migrant workers working within the NHS and within private care areas. And one of the things that I do ask my colleagues when I'm on shift is I'll ask the migrant colleagues that I work with whether they're here on sponsorship, and they do reply yes, they're here on sponsorship. And I ask them, is this a role that you wanted to do? I said, do you want to work in care? No, they don't want to work in care. None of them. 100% of the people I've asked who are on sponsorship do not want to work in care. They're being made to work because that's where the jobs are available for them. They're being made to work in minimum wage, low-skilled jobs, when really what they want to be doing is working as engineers or working in higher paid, higher giving jobs, which are much more satisfying for them and much more contributory to the economy.
Why are they being forced into these jobs then? Because I've got a question, and listen, can I just say, I think you're amazing, the people that work like you do as nurses, honest to God, genuine hand on heart. Here's the bit I don't get. Let's take that some of your colleagues in the NHS are doing what you call basic jobs because they're sponsored to come here and they're not giving their skills, if you like, to a job that they could readily do. How do you feel about the fact that we have a system, not those genuinely deserve it, but there are people poncing off the benefit system? Why don't we get the people who aren't disabled or mentally ill, genuine question here, to do those jobs in the NHS whilst we're giving them unemployment benefit for years and years, to give something back to us and to get something in terms of self-confidence and belief into them?
Well, me and my wife were talking about this the other day, and one of the issues with the benefit scheme is the government benefits from people being on benefits because they don't save assets. They spend the money that they're given, so it just goes straight back in.
Yeah.
So it actually benefits them from people being on benefits. I'm neurodivergent. I have disabilities, and I've worked all my life. I'm an army veteran. My wife is also. We've got 4 kids ourselves, and we support them. And I think that if you're going to have that many children, you should support them. You should support them yourself.
You're a top man, and it's so good to have you on, Wazza. I really appreciate it. Say good morning to... Is it windy and rainy in Wigan?
It's always windy and rainy in Wigan.
Now, I knew you'd say that, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity. The excellent Warren, NHS nurse, we love him, 9:10. We'll have across the United Kingdom. Good morning, Penny.
Morning, Jezza. Penny from a rather miserable and rainy Southampton here. Just a quick one. Do you not think, you're probably on the same page as me, but I'm just going to put it across to you. Do you not feel like you've been a bit robbed by this government? You know, you work hard for your money that you take home. They've upped taxes because of the, and I quote, 2 billion black hole, 20 billion black hole, whatever it was that they said last year, which obviously is now a complete and utter lie. So they raised all the taxes to cover this black hole, but there was no black hole. So they've raised the taxes and stolen our money and given it to people who don't necessarily, I'm going to say the word deserve it. Now, obviously, there are people on benefits who can't work, and I understand that. But there's also a heck of a lot of people who don't deserve our taxes on benefits. So, I mean, I personally feel like I've been robbed. Do you think maybe we should let the police know that the government have been robbing us? Just a thought.
I love her. 2 things, actually, in terms of what Penny said. You might remember Reeves. She said, I'm asking everyone, excuse me, to contribute. You're not asking, thieves, are you? You're telling us because it's the law. We ain't got a choice. Secondly, listening to what Penny said, and I'm sat there thinking, do you not remember during the election campaign they said, there's a £22 billion black hole? Here's the thing for you on text, 87222. When did the lies start then? When did this government start lying to us? 87222. We say a very good morning. Top man, Dan Hodges, Mail on Sunday, whose latest column was fantastic. It was entitled, Reeves will be lucky if the only punishment for this shameful deceit is the loss of her job. Morning, Dan. Interestingly, of course, Nigel, who's on in a bit, Nigel Farage, he wants to report her to the sleaze watchdog in terms of ethics advisor in the House of Commons, which could be her basically misleading Parliament. The Tories have gone further this morning. They've written to the FCA, the Financial Authority, and said if this was a private company, this person would be prosecuted. Where do you think she stands? Because old Starmer's coming out in a minute to support her, mate.
Well, she stands on quicksand at the moment. I mean, she is in very, very serious trouble for the reasons that you've just outlined. I mean, firstly, we now know categorically, and we can all see, she lied through her teeth to the British people on multiple occasions, from the general election campaign when she consistently said she wouldn't raise taxes on working people, from the budget a year ago when she said if she had extended the freeze on tax thresholds, that would be a tax on working people, and that's why she hasn't done it. She's obviously now has gone and done it. We had obviously the statement she said after the budget last year to the CBI when she pledged categorically. She said, let me be clear, public services have to live within their means. I'm not coming back for more taxes and more borrowing. She has come back for more tax and more borrowing. But as you just touched on there with the Tories, she's not just lied to the British people, and also, as we see in the papers this morning, lied to members of her own cabinet.
Yeah.
She's also lied to the financial markets, and that is a very, very serious issue, because what she did in the weeks in the run-up to the budget, in terms of her speeches and the briefings that were given by her aides on her behalf, firstly, as we now know, they were untruthful. But the second thing is they directly influenced the markets. They directly manipulated the markets and were quite clearly intended to manipulate the markets. And very, very sensitive, at that time, confidential financial information was leaked. And that is a very, very serious issue. So this isn't just about the politics, although Rachel Reeves is obviously in very, very serious trouble on the politics. There is a very serious issue that needs to be looked at to how the British Chancellor manipulated the financial markets for her own political ends.
And it's interesting as well, I just off the top of my head, but Christian, so when the election campaign was on, they made a real humdinger of a fuss about this £22 billion black hole. Sunak, that clip that's come out, and I wasn't a fan of his over the weekend, said it'll cost every household or person an extra £2,000. It's all about tax rises. He was proven spot on. One wonders when the lies started. Was there ever a black hole? I've no idea, but all I do know from history, and you'd agree with me on this, Dan, is the Labour Party is synonymous, and always has been when it's in power, with spending more than it brings in, because they're going to promise to all sorts of people, usually their union mates, and the country ends up skint. And that's not me condoning anything that the Tories did, because there was so much in the end about the Tories that they had to be voted out. But we were not where we are financially and in terms of just how we stood 15 months ago. They made an absolute hash of the economy. This great growth for working people, that turned out to be a lie as well, didn't it?
Well, I mean, you asked when it started, and let me just say from the beginning, let's not completely rewrite history. Let's not pretend that Britain was a land of milk and honey.
No, it wasn't.
Until the day Labour walked through the front door of the Treasury. The Tories did leave the economy in a mess. But let's just remember what we were told. We were told by Rachel Reeves initially in the election campaign, she was fully aware of what the Tories had been doing. But her programme was fully costed. She had a fully costed manifesto. She then got in and said, oh, shock horror, I found this 20 billion black hole. Fine. But we had a budget last year in which Rachel Reeves specifically said, as a result of this budget, huge tax-raising budget, I have now filled the black hole. Yeah. She literally said, I have stabilised the economy, and said I won't need to be coming back for more tax rises. Remember as well, we then had the situation where she did the U-turn on the winter fuel allowance and the U-turn on the benefit cuts. At which point she stood up, and we all saw her said it. It's there. People can look at her, read her statements, look at the news clips. She stood up and said, "I'm able to reverse the winter fuel cut. I'm able to move away from the benefits cut because I have now stabilised the economy. Then suddenly, when we came into the run-up to the budget, we literally had from her an emergency press conference in which she said, oh, no, I haven't stabilised the economy. Actually, there's a black hole after all.
But this is my point. There is no part of me, by the way, that would ever say that at the end of the Tories it was milk and honey. I think financially we weren't in the position in terms of where we are now, but they were shot. They were done. But so many people, Dan, listen to this is going to be country before party. This is going to be grown-up politics, and we got through the suits and the glasses and Lord Alley. The very point of this is one looks at her and her incompetence and him who can't seem to turn whichever way and get anything right. And you wonder whether it was fully costed. I mean, they had that plan for 100 days and the woman that put that together, Sue Gray, was gone on day 93. I just think they hoodwinked the British people. I'm being serious. That's my opinion.
It obviously wasn't fully costed. But I mean, look, you and I have seen, have been observing. I've been commenting on politics for decades. There is a basic playbook that any government, be it Labour or Tory, always adopts. They go into the election campaign, they set out their manifesto, they then come in and they say, oh my God, we've opened the books and it's the other lot have left us in a much worse state than we thought. That is basic politics, and that's kind of almost expected now. And I think actually, when the British people vote, they expect it. But what is different here is what governments do. They then come in and say, "We've come in. We're cleaning up the government, the other lot's mess. It's going to take time. There are going to be some hard choices. Yada yada yada." Right? What Rachel Reeves did, she came in. She said, "I've opened the books. I've identified the black hole." But then she spent the first half of this year telling everyone, I've filled it. I've filled the black hole. I've stabilised the economy. Growth is back on the right track. She literally said that was why she could reverse the winter fuel cuts and she could reverse the benefit cuts. Then she suddenly turned around and said, oh, no, actually, there is another black hole. As we now know, there wasn't a black hole at all.
Do you think she's out of her depth, Dan? Do you think she's out of her depth?
Completely out of her depth. Everyone knows she's out of her depth. And this is the issue now for Keir Starmer and for the Labour Party. Everyone in the country can see Rachel Reeves is not up to the job. But the question is now, is Starmer not just going to sacrifice the economic well-being of Britain, but also his and his own party's political future to keep in post and circle the wagons around someone who is clearly incapable of doing the job she's been given?
That's his judgment for you. And quickly before I let you go, you're amazing. We love having you on. Talking about his judgment, I mean, you couldn't make this up. This was after your column, but I've no doubt you would have written it in the Mail on Sunday. This morning, please, this is the best story of the day. The former anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, overnight has been sentenced to 2 years prison in Bangladesh for corruption. You talk about judgment, you talk about Rachel Reeves, that woman who went to transport, she'd stole a mobile phone, he knew all about that. You have to question Keir Starmer's judgment in so much. Tulip Siddiq, neighbouring MP. Here's the best thing that somebody said earlier. I love your take on this. He's about human rights and the laws and stuff. He should respect Bangladesh's laws and have a assent there, shouldn't he?
Well, I think there's two sides to this. One is, there are question marks about whether the prosecution was political. We have to be completely open about this. There's all sorts of internal Bangladeshi politics going on here, which I think is feeding into this. But going into your original point, however, when Tulip Siddiq was appointed, Keir Starmer was well aware of these issues.
Yeah,
Keir Starmer knew these issues, and and so as you say, to appoint her to that position, again, it's the same as with Rachel Reeves. To appoint her to that position does absolutely raises serious questions about his political judgment.
Very quickly before you go, does she stay or does she go, in your opinion, Dan?
Rachel Reeves?
Yeah.
Oh, she's definitely going to go, but then so is Keir Starmer. But I do think there is going to have to be an investigation into what transpired into the run up to the budget, and that I think is going to be potentially very, very dangerous for Rachel Reeves.
Really great to have you on, my friend. Dan Hodges, Mail on Sunday. Great to have you on the show. See you next week. Very much hope so. 9:22. We're live across the UK. Nigel Farage very soon. The government were lying from the off, says Sean Cooper. Where's our frozen council tax? Where's our £300 reduction in energy bills? And what about everything being fully costed and fully funded? Sean says in Bredlington, got offered a summer season there once. Sean says they're all full of, yeah, absolutely. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Jazz. Steve here from Mansfield, mate. You just said about building more prisons on radio. I listen to you every day, mate. I think your show's great, by the way. We don't need to build more prisons, mate. Just get rid of all foreigners, all Albanians, drug dealers, all them lot. Get rid of them. Send them all back. Simple as. Why are we having to pay? I'm up 3 o'clock every morning, mate. I do 12 hours a day on a building site. I don't do 12 hours a day on a Monday, but 4 days a week I do. And so does my mate. We're grafting to pay for all foreigners that are breaking law. Send them back, mate. Send them back. That's it. Great show anyway. Listen, I'll keep listening.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk is, of course, the home of common sense, where the nation comes to have its discussion. It's all about Rachel Reeves today. Front page of the Times. Even the Cabinet, right, look at that, even the Cabinet are now briefing newspapers, the Times here, and saying she misled us. Everybody knows she's misled us. Everybody knows she's lied. But in about an hour, Keir Starmer's going to come out and defend her. Unbelievable. Loads of stories in the paper today. Couple that we haven't talked to you about already. A Pakistani immigrant fraudster, Omar Iqbal, 41, who conned elderly people out of their life savings, scumbag, is fighting his deportation because he claims he has a human right to NHS talking therapies and would suffer PTSD if he were ever to return to Pakistan. Forget the PTSD that those people who have worked all their life, the elderly who were conned out of their money. We say a very good morning to, well, after Plank of the Week, I'm just a bit of a pin-up. Will Kingston, political commentator, good morning.
G'day, Jez. How are you?
See, look, you're doing it. You're doing it. I watched you on Plank with all the women, and you're doing that Australian poor me accent and expect... Look at him. Look, he's loving life, aren't you, son? How are you?
I was the DEI hire on Plank of the Week last Friday, yeah. And also, I think, you know, if I ever get booted out of this country, I can use the Australian accent, speech therapy excuse and take it to the Human Rights Court, and I may have a good chance.
Mate, this story just about sums up the madness within which we live. Let me repeat that. A Pakistani immigrant fraudster, Omar Iqbal, conned elderly people out of their life fortunes, ruined their lives. He's fighting deportation because he claims he'd be, I'm going to sneeze, he'd suffer PTSD if he went back to Pakistan.
Yeah, there's a darkly funny coffee table book to be made about all of these nonsense ECHR deportation appeals cases, whether it be that Albanian bloke whose daughter didn't like chicken nuggets or, you know, take your pick of any number of them. In this instance, thankfully, at least the preliminary judge has said this is a nonsense.
Has he? Has he? Hurrah! A judge who speaks sense.
Don't get excited too soon. There's going to be yet another appeal. The court system is going to be clogged up even more. This is the triple whammy in terms of how stuffed the system is. He's come in on a student visa in 2010, from Pakistan, obviously as a way of trying to get indefinite leave to remain via the back door. He's been put in prison for 6 years for conning the British people. Instead of immediately putting him on a plane and getting him out, he's now been clogging up the appeal system or the judicial system for another 3 years, and he's still in the country. This has been in the country for 16 years now. It goes to show how thoroughly broken the judicial system is and all of the framework that surrounds it.
Well, it's interesting, actually, because today, of course, there's David Lammy, Calamity Lammy. His idea is to get over this backlog of court cases in the justice system by scrapping jury trials. And we had Michael Mansfield, one of the most eminent KCs in this country, saying that the jury, being judged by your peers, a cross-section of your peers, is the safeguard against judges who seemingly make irrational judgments because they might have a political motivation or whatever. It seems to me, I mean, the whole migrant situation, and I'd hate for it ever to just be one of those things that we accept, and it's so important to highlight it. It's just nonsensical. You must look, I interviewed Tony Abbott, your ex-Prime Minister, for a special about 1.5 years ago, and when he brought in the changes that he brought in Australia, he stopped the boats overnight, and everybody was like, oh, my God. And I know this because my brother's married to an Australian woman who was slightly left, and she was appalled by Tony Abbott. But it not only worked and was backed by the Australian people, that even that Albanese bloke, the Labour guy who's now in, has kept that policy going. I don't understand, and I haven't for a while, as to why Great Britain thinks it's OK to be soft. The only thing that sustains me is the belief that the British public have finally, the silent majority, have worked out that their voice can be heard. And I think they've had enough. I think they've had enough of doing everything right. And I say it every week, being at the back of the queue, mate.
Yeah, I had breakfast with Tony about a month ago, and he is astonished as well by just not the lack of political skill, but the lack of political will in this country to get this done. If you'll remember the Australian example, Labor in Australia, like Labor in the UK, were so against stopping the boats. It was, oh, you know, this is so cruel, this is unkind, this is unfair. And for the last decade in Australia, it's been a bipartisan issue that you control the borders. The UK can do the same thing. You can change the dialogue, but it requires political courage. And all of the stories that you run this morning, Jez, the common theme is that this is a government that is thoroughly lacking in political courage.
Yeah, completely. And actually, courage, yes, I'd agree, Will, but also a desire, no, not a desire, just a habit of lying and feeling, duping. And I keep saying this. I believe that the I mean, different from Australia, but I always saw Britain as, you know, morally a leader. We always did the right thing. But underlined, no longer can we fob people off with that. Listen, Will, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Will Kingston, political commentator, just gone 9:30. I promised you all morning. The man himself, the leader of Reform. Nigel Farage today saying that Rachel Reeves must face a sleaze probe over her budget lies. He's written to the ethics advisor. Nigel, good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning to you.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, fine. But I mean, you know, just think about how British business is this morning. When you think about it, the whole economy works on confidence and trust.
Yeah.
How can anyone trust a blooming thing Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer, or any of this government say? And, you know, every firm I talk to, they're stopping hiring, they're laying people off, they're reducing hours, consumers aren't spending. And this revelation that basically we were deliberately misled consistently by the Chancellor in order to raise taxes, to increase welfare bills, which is really the story of this.
Yeah.
This is completely unseemly. Now, the Conservatives want the Financial Conduct Authority to look into what she did. That won't work because anything like that, frankly, takes years. You know, some big investigation into market movements. What I'm saying is that we have something in public life called the Nolan Principles, and these apply particularly to ministers, and they are to act with honesty, openness and integrity. There is no way, in my view, that Rachel Reeves passes this test. So I've asked Laurie Magnus, who's in charge of the Ethics Committee, to investigate it. And frankly, this is something that could be done very, very quickly.
It's really interesting, Nigel, isn't it? Because there's no doubt that Thieves and Starmer are joined at the hip. I mean, one of the things that's come out of the show this morning is people are saying blatantly there was no black coal. Blatantly you have lied to the British public, Parliament, business, whatever, to achieve something. And what that achievement, well, I don't call it an achievement, is essentially, and I was abroad last week, but basically what you're saying as a government now is to go to work, pay your tax, be aspirational, pay for your kids, save, that's off the table. Now, what's really important is if you're feckless and reckless, keep procreating. And we're not talking about the genuine people because we're all happy to pay and we should absolutely continue that. But we're not prepared anymore to be gamed by con artists. It was not a career choice, was it, to sign on? It was supposed to be a safety net. And that is the message they're sending. And that is dangerous, isn't it? Because the silent majority, they won't have that, Nigel. They won't have that anymore. No way.
No, and it starts early now, doesn't it? Because we diagnose kids with ADHD.
Yep.
We've learned this morning that if you get that diagnosis now, there is no compulsion to even attend school. I mean, you just can't believe what's going on here. And of course, you know, if you get somebody in their teens and you tell them they're a victim, the likelihood is they'll stay a victim for the rest of their lives, living on benefits. And we can't afford to go on like this. It is an absolute joke. And you know, people I meet say, look, we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, we go to work, but the people next door get up at midday, smoke dope, and they've got as much money as we've got. It is so unfair.
How is that as a concept in a society? Listen, we all know you've done it, I've done it, everybody's done it. We got up with the alarm clock brigade. That's what you did. You wanted to inspire your kids. You wanted to... This cap on children, by the way. I'd love to know what you think about this. I mean, I did this years ago on my show and people were going, how can you say that? Because we shouldn't be rewarding, shelling out child after child. Your children are your responsibility. When I saw Rachel Reeves going, we don't want children in poverty. Well, if you can't afford children, stop bloody having them.
Well, and the problem with that, though, is this. I mean, if you've got a young working couple, both earning average incomes, I don't mind them getting some form of tax credit to help them.
No, OK.
But the problem with lifting the two-child cap is that over 80% of it will go to people who are unemployed or foreign-born nationals. There are nearly 1/3 families, foreign-born nationals, who will benefit massively from this uptick in child benefit. And that is absolutely monstrous and wrong. Look, we've got major problems in this country, and what we need is a government to be straight with us, to be honest with us. And what we've got is a Chancellor. Perhaps she thought she was playing a clever game. She's been found out, I'm not always a big fan of the Office of Budget Responsibility, but they've blown the lid, haven't they? They've literally blown the lid.
I mean, talk about how long then, in your experience, right? Because they are inextricably linked by the hip, really. How long do you think both of them have? Do you think they'll be gone before Christmas? I can't see us surviving this.
It's going to be very difficult to see us surviving this. I mean, a lot will depend on the mood of the Labour backbenchers. Because on the one hand, they were happy that she was increasing welfare, but on the other, they want to keep their seats at the next election, and they're panicking over this. Not, by the way, because of Jeremy Corbyn. What a shambles that was. At least that brought a smile to our face.
Is it your party or my party? It's not your party. It's not my. What a load of old. I can't even have that discussion. Have you seen some of the clips? Have you seen some of the clips?
Epic.
I mean, honestly, I'm a non-binary, transphobic, anti-comrade, and we're all going, yeah, right. That's almost as mad as Zach. Give me a line on Zach Palancy, by the way. We've never spoken about this. I found out last week that one of his deputies is Rachel Millward, who in fact lives in, I don't know if you know this, Crowborough in East Sussex, where the locals came out and went, we don't want 600 migrants, it's not fair. And she wrote the letter supporting that, despite the fact the Green Party's slogan is refugees are welcome. And when she was asked, Nigel, she said, no, they wouldn't be safe in leafy Sussex. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. She also claimed, by the way, Rachel Millward, she also claimed, well, of course, a lot of these people who are coming are doctors, are surgeons. Well, I don't think so. I think rather more goat herders, if you want the honest truth about who's actually coming into the country.
It's unbelievable.
You have to have trust in government. You might not believe every single word they say, but what has been done in the run-up to this budget is monstrous. And remember this, everybody. In the Labour manifesto, they said taxes would need to rise by 8.5 billion sterling. That was in the manifesto just 17 months ago. Already, they've risen by 68 billion.
Eight times.
Factor 8 times. And we are now being taxed to hell. The incentives for business, business been hit again with dividend taxes, and the exodus from our country is all too real. And it isn't just wealthy non-doms. I mean, the Tories got rid of most of them stupidly.
But the naivety of that is, Nigel, that anybody of aspiration that builds a small business or has savings is going to look at this government and go, I'm not going to live here. And then the Exchequer loses that tax.
Well, that's right. And the other thing that's happening is our young 30-somethings are leaving, and they're off to America, Australia, Dubai. But the other thing that's extraordinary, the number of people who came from Poland, who came from Romania, they stayed here, worked here, they got British citizenship. They all go back to their own countries. I mean, it's almost nearly 700,000 people last year emigrated from the UK. And that's why the net migration figure was lower than expected at 200,000. Still, over 800,000 people came, and goodness knows who they were. But the exodus from the country, the brain drain, the loss of talent, and as you rightly say, consequently, the loss of tax revenue. I mean, this is a disaster. And I think whether Reeves goes in the short term, I don't know. But I stick by what I said back at our party conference when I saw you there. I stick by what I said. There is going to be a major fiscal event.
Yeah.
And I think the general election will come years before 2029.
Can I just give you a chance to say on two things? Because, Nigel Farage, I'd like your definition quickly of when you really know it's all over. And I'm going to suggest it's this moment. Rachel Reeves, this has just flashed up. The BBC's now having a go. Rachel Reeves misled the BBC in the run-up to the budget. The corporation's political editor Chris Mason has just said he concluded that Miss Reeves withheld vital information from voters when she laid the ground for tax rises. Nigel Farage, when the BBC come for you, you're not doing great, are you?
No, you're not. And the BBC should know about misleading. They've been doing it for decades. So if they've called it out, then I tell you what, for Chris Mason to say that, that is a big pitch. For the BBC's political editor to come out and say that the BBC was misled, that is a very big moment. Big moment.
I know you're busy. I've got to play this because Christian says you'll love it. This is Joe on markets. Very quickly, go.
Morning, Jezza. Just in regards to Rachel Reeves and the black hole and her play in the markets, I have actually been following banking shares quite closely recently, And I have been thinking to myself, how come they're going up? So could this actually be bigger than what we think? And certain people also knew that there wasn't a deficit or anything, and therefore they've been buying shares and cracking on as normal while everyone else has been selling them cheaply.
Nigel?
Well, never underestimate the ability of corruption to happen in government. I mean, remember that some of Rishi's team actually bet on an early general election hours before he announced it. Yeah, I mean, I do take the point that there was supposed to be a special tax going on banks. Remember? It was briefed, and it didn't happen. So, yeah, someone somewhere did very well out of bank shares.
It's really good. And you must be, before you shoot off, you must be feeling very sorry this morning again for Starmer, because his anti-corruption minister overnight's been facing 2 years jail in Bangladesh for corruption, Nigel Farage.
I know, you just couldn't make this stuff up, did you? I mean, you just, I mean, I wonder, some weeks the editors of Private Eye must sit down and think, now, what can we do to satirise politics? Well, they barely need to think this week, do they?
Mate, I don't think we've come in here any morning and not been given just like, the best lines. Listen, really good to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform, live and exclusive on Talk Breakfast, 18 minutes to 10.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, quarter to 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer, the Queen of Westminster, here from 10 o'clock, and Ian Collins from 1 o'clock this afternoon. Jezza, there was no bloody black hole. Pay rises to train drivers and then went on strike. Resident doctors' pay rises who then went on strike. Pay off to the unions who then went on strike. It's bonkers. They treat the Treasury like a bottomless credit card. Damien in Farnworth, middle-aged British Christian who is absolutely raging inside. Nigel Farage all the way. Morning, me old dear. No idea what that means. Am I old, dear? The only black hole that there is the one she's just dug for herself, and it's big enough for the rest of Labour to be thrown into, says Les in Swindon. Very, very quickly. I proudly live within my means, says Lash. Oh, you weird individual. I pay my debts promptly. I try and save for a rainy day. I make sacrifices. I don't spend what I can't afford. After all, there are laws and consequences to me not doing so. How can my government so willfully ignore this prudence on cost and spend at my expense without consequences? I just don't understand it. I don't want to go into government. I don't go into government because I don't think I have the skills. How do these bloody people sleep at night? Couldn't agree agree more. 14 minutes to 10. Donald Trump in the news again overnight, accused of falling asleep on live TV. Apparently now they're all worried about his health. Maybe he's just bored. And he's also pretty rude about Tim Walz, who stood, of course, with Kamala word salad Harris. We say a very good morning. I love this. We're going live to Phoenix, Arizona. LaDonna Harvey, host on KTAR in Phoenix. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm excellent. You know, granted, it is almost 3 o'clock in the morning here, so perky too.
Hey, listen, I got up at 3 o'clock and I've still got a spring in my step and my hat's at a jaunty angle. LaDonna, why is your country... Listen, there's much I love about it, but did he fall asleep or is this just them looking for an angle? Apparently Donald fell asleep and there are health worries mounting.
Well, he does look rather sleepy, and, you know, quite frankly, I have struggled through meetings that should have been an email as well. I don't know... I don't know if Hegseth was just boring him to death or if he really was tired. You know, the thing that does not look good for him is, you know, he spent a lot of time talking about Sleepy Joe. And alas, looks like he was just having a little bit of a snooze, maybe just a tad of a nap.
He does always look down, doesn't he? But yeah, and listen, he's 76 years of age. I don't think he's unhealthy. I think maybe he was just knackered. Now, I need to give a bit of a warning before the next clip. We're going to play a clip. Donald Trump used a word that is deemed offensive. It's in reference. He used it against Tim Walz, of course, who is the guy who stood to be the vice president with Kamala Harris. If you're easily offended or your kids nearby, this is your chance to switch off for a minute. He uses a word that is offensive. And then we will get LaDonna's judgment. So, Trump stands by this clip. This is him talking about Tim Walz.
In that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you call him what many Americans do find an offensive word, retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely sure.
You don't think
You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
LaDonna, take on this.
You know, Donald Trump is who he is. I mean, he calls people names. What did he call a reporter piggy? I think that anytime you're having an interaction with him as a reporter, you should probably expect a name calling. It's just the kind of guy he is. It's jarring because it's not what one expects from a politician. You know, we expect them to be so guarded that they don't tell you anything at all 99% of the time. And so you know, is that a word I would use? No, it's not.
It's not a word I would use, but I'm going to throw this out there, and this isn't to defend Donald Trump because I would never use that word. But Tim Walz is a man who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in his state, Minnesota, am I right?
Yes, governor of Minnesota.
Putting sanitary products in men's toilets. Am I right or am I wrong, LaDonna?
So, as far as I know, you are correct. He has spent a lot of money, as many politicians do, on things that we can't even begin to fathom as normal people would not spend that kind of money. You know, it's rough to defend the president in using terminology that nobody else would and treating people the way that nobody else would. He is who he is, however.
Waltz and all, right?
Yeah, Waltz is the way he is, and Trump is the way that he is.
I didn't see what I'd done there. Waltz and all. I love it. I said warts and all. LaDonna, it's the 1st of the month. Have you got your Advent calendar ready? Do you not do that in the States?
No, I just drink loads and loads of coffee and hope for the best. If I can make it to January 1st, well, lucky me.
Love having you on, sweet. Thank you so much indeed, LaDonna Harvey, host, of course, of KTAR in Phoenix, Arizona. 10 minutes to 10. Julia here in 10 minutes on Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our Talk TV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the Talk TV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6 minutes to 10 o'clock. Julia in 6 minutes. Jez, hi. I think that the lying started by this government during the election when Keir said that he respected Mrs Thatcher, or words to that effect. The second he got into Downing Street, he took down her portrait. Yes, Jeff in Sheffield, you're right. Nick in Westgate-on-Sea is obviously either deranged or too old. My wife loves you and tells me I look very much like you. Make of that what you will. He's 86 and joking. Morning, Jez. This lot started lying by saying we're ready for government and we have a fully costed plan, then persisted in calling those who stick up for their communities racist and far right. And the lying has now turned into gaslighting. We're in a metaphorical abusive relationship with Keir Starmer's government, says Glenn in Sussex. Jeff as well. If Rachel from Accounts was Pinocchio, how long do you think her nose would be? I don't think it's fair to talk about the length of people's noses. Not because mine's huge, but because that will probably offend somebody at the U-Party conference. My daughter, one of your regular commentators, just sent me an item about Reeve's latest plan to give benefits to children with ADHD without any need for them to do education, training or employment. Great. So what will happen to those kids on the verge of adulthood? This is a ploy for bloody votes. What a stupid thing. Where is Reeve's brain? It's on that brain train. Mick, good morning. I don't want to put my name, but I've worked until I was medically retired. Has no one worked that welfare... But what? Has no one worked out that the welfare bill has got out of control since COVID because so many people went to their GPs and got signed off for mental health problems and never signed on to go back to work. Tina, good morning. Reference Rachel's not misleading the country. How about a quick poll, you try saying that, asking how many people thought we had a £20 million black hole and how many thought we had a surplus after that news conference. Hello to Julie and Steve in Dubai, who have blatantly left this sad country already. Good morning, Jezza. Emily Pankhurst and all the suffragettes will be turning in their graves. They fought so hard for women to be recognised, not just for votes. The whole country has regressed back to the early 1900s, so as far as respect for women is concerned. Great, everybody happy. Morning, Paul.
Hi, Jeremy. Paul in Fleet here. To answer your question on when this government started lying to us, I think the answer is before the general election. Anyway, a number of people have talked about Rachel Reeves being prosecuted alongside Keir Starmer, and I'm not entirely sure everyone would know what they should be prosecuted for. The simple fact is that she's lied in Parliament under parliamentary privilege, but she's also lied out of Parliament, outside of Parliament, in the media, and that amounts to misconduct in public office.
Couldn't agree more. Paul in Paul on Reeves. I no idea where he's from. Nigel Farage saying ethics committee need to look into it. Conservatives saying the Financial Regularity Council need to look into it as well. George in West London. Jez, I think we're being a little bit hard on poor old Starmer, do you? All these pundits saying that the government has no real world experience. That's complete rubbish. He's appointed a corruption minister who's best placed to know what corruption is. A homelessness minister who knows how bad landlords make good people homeless. Give the guy a break. I think you're being unfair. Hello, Hannah.
Jeremy, I just can't help think every day there's a scandal with Labour, Reeves, Starmer, lies, corruption. Didn't Boris get ousted for some cake? How are we even in this situation? They have to go. Surely they've lied and lied and lied. We deserve better. This country must surely deserve better than this.
Here's an interesting point at 2 minutes to 10. Chilit Sadiq couldn't make it up. The anti-corruption minister overnight being sentenced to 2 years in jail in Bangladesh for, yes, that's right, corruption. Who's this? Steve says Chilit Sadiq got 48% of the vote last time in her constituency. If she's forced out, do we think that Andy Burnham will jump into her grave? Good morning, Julia Hartley-Brewer.
Good morning. Well, she's my MP. I'm obviously thrilled to have a convicted felon as my MP.
Is she your MP?
What I love is they'll go like, well, this is these are made up, trumped up charges. It wasn't a fair system because she wasn't there to defend herself. But it's a judge led. It's not a jury. What's David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, got? Has he got a problem with that? Because I thought he thought that. No, but I thought he thought that was how we should have justice now, yeah? Just
forget
have
the
appointed
safety
judges.
net of a jury, yeah?
Politically appointed judges, yeah. I mean, but there we are. Anyway, Rachel Reeves, do you think she makes it through the week, makes it to Christmas, makes it to the May elections? Where are we on
Well,
this?
it depends what Starmer says today, because every time he stands by somebody, they're usually gone by Friday.
I mean, literally, Keir Starmer, please never endorse me in my job. I know that I won't